Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we proudly welcome you to Just About Anything. And here's your host, Joe!
That was excellent. That was too good.
I'm good at radio voices, man. One of my many... Yeah, sure, one of my many talents. Why not?
Yeah, own it.
Can I have your autograph? I didn't bring a pen or paper, so this might be a little harder than I planned.
You sign the coaster.
We'll talk later. We'll talk later. I don't charge much to friends.
Oh, nice.
Roll up the sleeve and then get a little autograph on there. It is. But people probably are like, who was that voice? Because they've never heard it before. I've got a Mark here, Mr. Mark Whitaker.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I've heard so many things about you, and this is going to be fun. This is going to be dope. Next to you, though, is the man who cannot appear on the show by himself. The one and only Gabe.
I'm in your spotlight, Gabe. I'm in it.
I love the fact that is going to be a thing now. It's awesome. As I still have that thing up there. It's great.
I don't know if I'm sad about that or not. I think it's fine. It's funny.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. You know.
But maybe I just want my opinions.
It's gonna happen at some point.
Just mine, not Mark's.
What about?
We already know Mark's opinion.
About Jonathan?
He's perfect.
Aw.
Fuck Jonathan. I don't care about him.
Doki doki.
Doki doki. Oh man. So I guess I talked to both of you at one point about a different kind of video that I still haven't had a chance to make yet, because it's hard enough to plan 2 people to get here at one point. Planning 3 people to get here at one point.
Dude, you're talking to 2 connoisseurs of D&D. We know the scheduling challenge.
But I do still want to do that at some point. I think it'd be super fun. But in the process of doing that, I learned that you guys, I learned from talking to you that you're into the weeb stuff. And I found out that you're also into the weeb stuff.
Tattoo time.
Oh, tattoo time. Tattoo time. All right.
Hold on. Here we go. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I've not seen all of it.
So it goes around the whole thing. I can't see a third of it, so we'll see if I can remember. So I've got my X-Men up here.
Yep.
Grew up on the 90s X-Men cartoon. That was showing my age a little bit here, but that was a big part of it. So
I think we're probably close to the same age. Okay.
I'm a little older than you from what I know.
Okay,
I know. So.
Okay.
I've listened to your show. I know stuff.
Right.
So
nice.
Got X-Men up here. This is the Persona 4 Yasagami High logo.
That's the one that threw me for a loop. So.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's the Mercedes logo. Apparently there's some similarities there. Admittedly, there's supposed to be like a little kanji that the artist was like, yeah, I'm not effing doing that.
You want to know what I thought
tiny.
It was initially?
Sure.
It's really bad, and you're gonna hate me for it. I thought it was like some weird Mangekyo like thing, and I was like, what? I didn't remember seeing that in the show. So what is that? And now I'm happy to be wrong.
Happy to clear that up.
Yeah.
Pokemon down here. I mean, I was the correct age when the first Pokemon games came out. Of course, Legend of Zelda up here. We got our Harry Potter representation. Batman. If I have to explain Batman, I've come on the wrong podcast.
Just leaves.
Final Fantasy VII, very timely. We got that remake coming out in April. Up here, I know, is the Mass Effect Renegade symbol. Apparently, I am one of... I don't know if you saw that came out a week or so ago. No. They finally released the data on like the number of people who did Paragon versus Renegade. Apparently, Paragon was like 70 or 80% or something like that. So I'm part of the Renegade minority. I believe below that we have the Star Wars Rebellion symbol.
Yep.
And below that we've got my claim to fame, One Piece.
So the wrong word was used. He said weeb, and I jumped the gun. I think it's just nerd.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. I use the term weeb in the best way possible. I'm there too. Like I don't think of it as like a negative thing. I guess.
I mean, when we were young,
is what came
yeah,
off.
Sure.
When you and I were younger, it would definitely was not.
Yeah,
it was not a cool thing.
Yeah, yeah. But like to me now, like anyone who's still using that as like in a negative connotation is just that's funny to me. It's not like I don't hear that and go, "Oh, you asshole! How dare you call me?" I'm gonna punch you like, so hard.
I don't know. If granted, I think that's because it's mostly people in our generation that are using it. If some like 40-year-old was like, "Oh, you freaking weeb," I might actually get my hackles raised a little bit.
I think I'd still laugh.
I think I'd laugh.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be insulted.
Okay, no, that's fair. Now I am picturing like a 45-year-old.
Oh God. You mentioned that was your claim to fame.
Yeah.
You have a podcast.
Yeah. So, gosh, almost 2 years ago to the day, we launched late February 2018. So I, for a very, very, very long time, and I'm sure we'll talk more in depth about this later, I've been really into the show One Piece. And when my wife and I got married, I tried.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I tried very unsuccessfully to get her to watch it for a while until I tried her tried and true tactic. So many times if there's a show she wants me to watch and I'm just like not feeling it, whatever, but I'm not necessarily opposed to watching something, she'll be like, well, you can be on your computer, you can be on your phone, do whatever. I'm just going to put it on because she knows I'm not going to be able to help myself. I'm going to be looking at the bright lights and the pretty colors and the pictures. And eventually, if she sticks at it long enough, I'm going to get sucked in. Yeah. So I'm like, well, you don't have to watch. Like, I want to rewatch for me. So I'm going to start from the top and I'll put it on. I don't know how long it took, but there definitely was a point where I think it was like 20 or so episodes in, which sounds like a lot, but again,
it's One Piece. So.
Yeah. that's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
When I noticed she was looking at the screen more than she was looking at her phone, I'm like, yeah, I got her. So there came a point, we watched through the whole thing, and another good friend of ours who lives up north came down to visit probably 3 or 4 years ago. He comes probably once a year. And he came down, we had some downtime. I was like, I mean, do you want to watch some One Piece? I know it's like, we can just start it. You mentioned you're curious about it. And he's like, yeah, sure, why not? So we started watching, got like 12 episodes in before he went back up. He reached out to us. Gosh, was this pre-Discord? Gosh, this might have been pre-Discord. I might be dating myself a bit.
On,
Skype?
I think it, dude, we laugh. I think it was Skype.
It probably was.
If it was
Trello? Was that the other one?
This would have been like 6 years ago that this happened.
TeamSpeak? Like
I think 6 years ago it was just
it would have been
Skype and voice chat.
It might have been before AIM died. It might have been before AIM died, so it could have been that. Oh God, dating myself more
that's
here.
Crazy.
All right. Either way, he reached out, was like, "Hey, I'd love to watch more." So we started streaming some. Got maybe to episode like 22. Fell out of it. Didn't watch any for like 2 years. And then he just approached me out of the blue one day and was like, hey, like I haven't wanted to be pushy or anything. And I know it's been a couple of years, so we'd probably have to start from the top, but I really do want to watch more One Piece. And I'm like, well, I know us. I know our track record. If we just go into this saying, yeah, for sure, we'll keep it up, we're not gonna. We're like the same exact thing is going to happen. I don't know how in my mind that became clearly the next logical step is to start a podcast about One Piece.
It's like, this is how we'll keep this consistent.
That might have been part of it. And part of it is I definitely like the sound of my own voice. So I was like, yeah, sure. I'll talk about this thing that I love.
Yeah.
And so I got him on board. I got my wife on board. And the conceit was just sort of, me, the longtime fan, my wife who's been with it for a little bit, and then him, the total noob, going through this ridiculously daunting series for the first time.
So are you guys doing it like episodic, like by the episodes that you've watched, or
we would literally be at this forever, right? If we did
right,
one
that's
a week.
what I was like. So, I mean, if you want to make sure that you have plenty of episodes for the future,
endless content, right? Like decades and decades of content. We break it up into chunks because we all love watching stuff. It's real hard to just say, especially in this day and age, to say I'm going to watch one episode of a thing and that's going to be it.
Sure.
So we break it into 4 or 5 chunks. There was one time we did a chunk of 8 to get through some filler. A lot of liquor was involved. That's all I'll say about that. But I think as of our last recording session, we just wrapped up talking about up through episode 415, I want to say, somewhere in that range.
Okay. Out of 1,600.
Is it really that high?
No, not.
It's like 8 or something.
9. We're in the 9s. It's like 920, 930. Yeah.
Wow. Like I somewhat keep up with One Piece. I think the most recent thing I've can remember that I've seen. I don't even remember. I'm really bad with character names too. There was the little girl who they went to the Wano.
That's the arc that they're in, both
Right.
manga and anime right now.
Oh wow, they're together.
Yeah, I mean, granted, there's
They're-
like 50 chapters
Sure,
worth of material separating the two, but the manga's been in it for a bit. The anime just recently entered into that arc.
Okay.
That is the current stuff.
I mean, I'm there, but I know I'm like episodes behind. Like the last thing I can remember was like Luffy fighting that guy, in the sumo.
Yeah. Oh no,
thing.
dude, that's totally natural.
yeah.
Like, this is going to be a weird thing to say, but the absolute worst thing to happen for us keeping up on One Piece was us starting a podcast about One Piece. Because now Chris and I are so far behind. It's like, well, we already have a day where what we do is watch One Piece.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, hey, let's up it to 2 or 3 and just the two of us watch a bunch of One Piece. I'm sure like we've done little bits here and there, but we're falling further behind. It's getting rough.
I think you said it already, but I may have missed it. What was the name of the podcast?
Our podcast is called Piece Together.
Piece Together. That's a great name.
Thank
Pretty good.
With Captain Mark.
Yeah.
With Captain
I've
Mark.
listened to
Yeah.
it. It's good.
I'm the Captain Mark. My wife's your navigator, Chris. And then Dak's job, he's our third friend. He changes from week to week to week.
That's pretty good. That's hilarious. I wonder, are you invested in One Piece? Like, are you caught up with it? No,
Nope.
You're like Dax level, like.
Yep.
Okay.
Now I am. I used to, and then I got sad, and then I did a lot of drugs at one point and lost all my memory of
All
everything.
right. Confession time.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's kind of
I
great
have
though.
zero memory.
It's
now.
great.
So
It's great for
hard.
me because we've talked about where you were when you stopped, but you don't remember anything before that either. So every time I talk to you about One Piece, I just get to talk to you like it's completely fresh.
But see, I
It's
also
kinda
really
delightful.
enjoy that too.
Mm.
Like I think One Piece is one of those shows where it's like there's no reason for me not to watch it aside from the fact it's just too damn long. I love the source material. I
Yeah.
think it's fucking awesome. Watched it for a long time. I just so many other things I want to do, man.
I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with people telling me because I hate spoilers for everything. I hate spoilers. My roommate spoils everything for me.
Yeah.
So or used to, I guess.
Okay.
He's better now. But point is, I hate spoilers, and it's funny because One Piece is one of the only things that I'm okay with people telling me anything about. But no matter what I learn, eventually I'm still gonna watch the entire thing.
I think there are a few things of media or really good stories, I guess, that you can spoil it for someone, but the interest in how you got to that spoiler thing is big enough that like you still want to find out.
Oh,
Like
I've
One
got-
Piece is one of those things, like in my opinion. Like
Yeah,
I
you're right.
I can tell you like this person died and you'd be like, but how though? Like, or like what led up to how did he end up in that situation? It's like which is I guess a testament to the writers. Like they do a good job. Most of the time there's some stuff in there that's kind of stupid.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like the huge disclaimer on everything, right, is it is okay to like something that is flawed
Oh yeah.
as long as you recognize the flaws that it has. And
Yeah.
as much as I love One Piece enough to get the damn Straw Hat Jolly Roger tattooed
Yeah.
on my arm, series got some flaws.
Oh, yeah.
Like we're about to get some we're about to get to some in what we're watching for the podcast, and I'm just dreading talking about that.
See, just you're fully caught up with the story, right? Like you've watched ahead and like are watching it.
So
again.
I'm probably about 30 chapters behind manga wise.
Okay.
Anime wise, I'm further behind than that, but I know because
Right.
I'm more up on the manga, I know
Okay.
what happens.
That's kind of how I digested that story. I started off watching. It was like a college thing for me. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything else. I'm also not watching Hajime no Ippo, so I'm gonna watch One Piece. That's what I'm gonna do. And I sat there and I was like, I'm gonna watch this, and I did that through, I think my sophomore and junior year of college, and grinded it out. Got through caught up all the way, and then by the time I caught up, I was just like, I guess I'll passively read the manga here and there, and then I guess other anime and stuff have come out since then, and it kind of distracted me from it. But I've like I said before, I kind of caught up to it a little bit now. I think the thing that's crazy about One Piece is they don't have the shonen or Gurren Lagann problem where like things just keep like escalating to like absurdity. Like everything in that world is kind of, they've already said like, all right, here are these 5 people, they're insane, they're really good, they're really strong, and they never, once they fully introduce those characters, they never go, all right, now here's another group of people that are like even crazier than that. It's like, these are the best. Like no, they go and they have established that, which I like. I like that a lot.
Big hard agree. There's been progression and like the stakes have escalated, but it's all been along that scale that they introduced so early
Chapters, episodes or whatever.
Dude, that's sidebar. If you'll grant me a 30-second sidebar, that is the one thing I never get over in One Piece. Like I said, we just covered like episode 415, and they drop something in the 410s range that they foreshadow in like episode 2.
You can tell me what it is. Is this
so I guess this is my spoiler warning. Spoiler warning for all of you out there not up on One Piece. If you don't want to hear about this, now's the time to skip ahead. They're at this point in the show, that's where they've started introducing hockey. And so we've finally gotten the Conqueror's hockey named for the first time. Right. The first time we see that is in Luffy's flashback, where you see how Shanks lost his arm and his whole thing. And while I don't know if it's ever been outright stated, it's super heavily implied that Shanks uses that to just scare away the Sea King that eats his arm. And when you think about it, like they don't name that until I'm not super familiar with the chapter numbers, so forgive me with going episode wise. And like the 410 range is when they give that a name. They show that to you in episode like 2.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
So like part of me wants to see something like that and then go, you guys didn't plan that. You just threw that on there later on in the day. Like, but I feel like there's other stuff too that like adds up to that, I guess.
Oh, for sure.
Like, so maybe they have had this overarching like plot. I hope one day like the writers can sit down and like they can go over that kind of stuff when it's all done. Which I heard is not too long from now.
Yeah, I can give you a little bit of what I know.
Yeah.
So when Oda started writing out, it was One Piece written by a man named Ichiro Oda. Mm-hmm. When he started out, he had like all of the major story beats planned in his head, and he was like, okay, I can tell this story. I think it'll take me about 5 years to tell this story from beginning to end. What keeps happening, from my understanding, is he just keeps coming up with ideas like, oh, wait a second, I can include this. This will fit perfectly here. We'll add this. So all of the major story beats have not changed from day one in like 99, I think is when it was first published, the tail end of 99.
That's cool.
Those major story beats have not changed.
Is that inclusive of like the ending too?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Like none of that has changed from day one. It's just he keeps coming up with cool shit to add. So that's gotten him an extra 15 or so years.
I mean, or so.
Well,
how long is it's been running for?
Manga debuted in like, actually no, manga might have been 98 or 97 because the anime debuted in like November 99.
Jesus, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's more than 20 years, Mark.
Believe me, I am aware.
That's older than me.
Is it? Oh,
we already had this conversation.
You're 12.
Last time.
I keep forgetting that.
No, you flip them.
Yeah. 12 is just the number I give to anyone that's younger than me, unless I find out that they're younger than me. And there's a person we work with that I found out was younger than me, and I was just like, like how?
That was the same reaction you had. Not necessarily that I'm younger than you, but that I'm younger than the number you thought I was.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
That was my reaction when I found out when I first met this one. He couldn't legally drink.
Yeah.
Believe me, I get it.
And now,
ain't no laws when you're drinking claws, baby.
I hate. So I get so many White Claw memes, mainly from one person, but I get so many of them, and it's just like I just want an alcoholic drink that doesn't make me hate myself after I drink it.
But still fucks you up.
Oh, it will definitely fuck you up.
Yeah.
I remember bringing
that's
these.
a good number or not, but
I've literally brought these to parties. Granted, this girl was like maybe 5'3", not a very tall person, not a lot of blood for the alcohol mixed with. But she had like 2, and she was just like, "Yeah, these things are strong." I'm like, "Stop,
Bro, you're a thimble. Relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, to cut a long story short,
Yeah.
One Piece is my area of expertise.
No, that's pretty cool. Do you watch like other? Like,
Oh
anime,
yeah,
like-
absolutely.
like
One
Exclusively One
Exclusively,
Piece.
like,
That is it.
Actually,
nothing
everything
else
else is trash. I don't want
Yep, no
to.
movies.
gosh, like there are people who legitimately not gonna get on my horse there, but that Lord, no, I'm like a lot of people around our age. I started was most of my first exposure was through Toonami, so I watched a lot of that stuff starting out. Then I started branching out on my own. One Piece was actually something that was introduced to me at a convention off the recommendation of, at the time, my best friend. He was the best man at my wedding. I just haven't talked to him in a while. He was like, "Hey, check this show out. I think you'll really like it. It's screening it this time in this room." Yeah, I guess he was right. But I've watched a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, a lot of it's been some of the main shonen series. I was into Naruto a long time before I wasn't. I was into Bleach for a long time before I wasn't. My Hero Academia, the new hotness, absolutely loving the heck out of that. But then a lot of like other shows that I've watched, been introduced to. There's a new one right now, Keep Your Hands Off Isaacin, I believe is what it's called. It's maybe like 10 or 11 episodes deep. It's this quirky little thing about like a bunch of high school girls trying to make their own anime.
Oh,
but
okay.
dude,
So it's meta as fuck.
it's meta. It's meta as fuck. But not gonna lie, since I've been watching that show, and they go into a lot of the technical stuff about how it works, I caught myself. What were we watching the other day? We were watching. I think it was when we were watching One Piece for the podcast, and my wife looks at me and she's like, "I gotta ask. Since we've been watching Isaacin, have you been paying attention to like a lot of the details about like how the characters move and how this is done?" I'm like, I didn't come here to get called out.
Yeah.
I came here to work on my podcast. It's a delightful show, like big Ghibli vibes from that. Seriously.
Oh, that's how you get me.
Yeah.
Dude.
Okay, there you go.
The watch, I challenge anybody out there, watch the first episode. It's on Crunchyroll. I don't know what else. Watch the first episode. If you don't walk away from it just feeling like just joy, just a pure sense of joy in your soul, I don't know what to tell you, man. You can go to a doctor or something.
So like, I'm gonna get some hate for this, but that's okay. I've never been a big like Ghibli fan. He's just like, I'm leaving now.
I mean,
and I think part of it is the reason for that is like when I first got into anime, the stuff that I like really got attached to were like the very dark, broody stories, and I like colorful stuff. That's cool. It's fun if it's like a couple episodes you're just pissed. You're just like,
I'm
just like,
so
what the
focused.
fuck?
I'm
No.
trying to understand you.
But like that stuff does not have the same appeal to me as like I start off with like Death Note and stuff like that. I love that style of like of like storytelling. I love it. Like I can't even remember what the name of it was, but I never finished it. But it was a really cool story. I'm gonna find it at some point. It was basically like you had these vampires and you had these people that weren't vampires and they were fighting each other. I don't remember what it was called, but like that kind of story. That's like most anime at this point. But I know that was a terrible.
Yep, some are vampires.
were
Yeah.
the vampires the good or bad guys?
The cool thing about the story was neither of them were good.
Okay.
That was what pulled me into the story, and I was just like, this is good. I love gray plot points. That's why I was very upset with Star Wars, or at least the current Star Wars, the most recent trilogy, because they had an opportunity to do that and then they didn't. So,
But she had. Wait, is this? You guys seen the movie?
I haven't.
I
you
won't say
haven't
anything.
seen?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I'm so sorry.
No, it's so I did really. Everybody that I know was very courteous, very kind.
Okay.
Did not spoil anything for me.
That's good.
My news feed did not have the same level of respect.
Jesus.
So I know several of the main plot
Okay.
points.
I don't know. That to me, ambiguous like moral stuff is cool. This bug is killing me. It's pissing me off. I think you got it. I think you
No.
got it.
Damn.
Go away. You weren't invited.
We'll get it. We'll get it on the next
Ruining-
pass.
You're
What's the word?
But to me, it's totally okay that stuff isn't your cup of tea.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to like something to respect it being influential, to respect the artistic style, to respect the difference that it's had on the medium. I know for myself, one of the big things for that, I'm sorry in advance, Gabe, there was not that long ago, there was a really big web series called Homestuck.
Fucking God.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
It's like the fandom is a mess.
Okay.
Don't go like if you decide you're curious and you want to check it out. There's some genuinely good storytelling there. It's not my cup of tea.
Okay.
But I absolutely can respect what the creator was able to build out of nothing. I can respect all of the effort that went into like a lot of the flash animations and stuff associated with it. There's a ton of world building. Like you can look at that and see this guy put in a shit ton of effort. It's just not my cup of tea.
I feel like there's something that's not being said. Like what's the
fandom ruined it. The fandom ruined it.
Do you mind if I take this sidebar from you?
Yeah, I want to know how they ruined it. I like because like and spoiler stuff for me. Don't worry about that. Like I said, if the story's good enough, I'm gonna want to watch it anyway.
You're not gonna
read it, or read it. Sorry.
This was like 5 years of my life, Joe.
Oh no.
This was on the same level as Naruto for a while. Keyword was. You know what Undertale is, right?
Oh yeah, I hate that.
Oh, perfect. You'll hate this too.
Okay.
So the Undertale fandom is the Homestuck fandom with a bunch more people.
All
it is the only thing that's actually the same is the guy Toby Fox, the guy that did the music for Undertale, did the music for Homestuck also.
That's a little reductive. Toby Fox did a bit more than just the music for Undertale.
Well, that's what he's okay.
Okay.
Well, to be fair, I say that because he only did the music for Homestuck.
Okay.
So that's what they share.
Okay. Gotcha.
He did a lot more than that. He's a cool guy. That's fine. The creator of Homestuck's a fucking asshole. I fucking hate him.
What did he do? What has he done?
He's not a. Oh wait, do you mean like negative things or?
Well, okay, so I'm assuming this guy has done some shit because
he's just a dick.
Okay.
He's just a mean.
He's
person.
just an unpleasant
He has fans who you go and you go, hey man, can I get a doodle? And he goes, here's your fucking doodle, and you're like, all right,
that was
my
unnecessary.
fucking doodle, I guess, and whatever. But I'm gonna keep this as short as I possibly can.
Okay. This is
I
fun.
don't want to talk about.
Okay.
it. It is a web comic, like you said. It is all done in MS Paint.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you hear that first, and you're like, oh, what?
It's
actually like
it could be
that
very
part of it's fun.
Yeah. Okay.
It is a comic that I don't even know what the fuck to start with this, man. I'll be honest with you. Okay. Here's the plot. Right. Quick.
All right.
This kid, he's at home. It's weird. He's just chilling. He's hanging out. He likes he has random posters of Nick Cage movies all over his wall. Big Nick Cage fan.
All right.
Strange person. It's set up the way that you read it is like there's a picture in MS Paint and then you're reading like a text under it that describes the scene.
Okay.
Sometimes it's flash animation. A lot of time it's flash animation. Sometimes just a picture. But it centers around the first part of it centers around these 4 kids who start playing a video game.
Okay.
Called, I think it's been so long since I fucking read. I think the game is just called Homestuck. No. I don't remember. They start playing a game.
Yeah, dude, I only read chapter 1 drunk after I lost a bet. I
can't
help you.
I never finished it, Mark. I stopped like literally 10 pages or 10 links before the end, and I went, I'm not ever gonna know how this ends on purpose because I don't ever want to fucking. It's
all right, keep going.
Point
is,
I
believe in you.
Okay, I can get there. Point is that we're playing a game. The second you turn the game on, it in real life spawns a meteor that will hit where you started this game up unless you can beat this tutorial part or the first part, which the way it works is the game comes with 2 discs. There's a client and a host.
Okay.
The host person is playing the game,
okay,
which alters like actual reality. The client user is someone who is literally playing the game. It's weird, right? It doesn't make any sense. There's so many stupid quirks to this shit. The way it's drawn is they don't have arms, and you don't know why they don't have arms, but then sometimes they do have arms, and you're like, okay. It's just a weird fucking thing. I'm sure you've seen like Comic-Con random cosplays all the time. Have you ever, let's see if this rings a bell. Gray person with candy corn horns. Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah.
That is Homestuck.
Okay.
That is Homestuck. That is a whole other thing of characters. See, it's everyone fucking knows what this is. That is what I'm saying. It is so bad. I have done these cosplays before, and they're online.
They exist forever.
And they will never go away.
You want to feel better about that?
Please.
I can make you feel better about that.
I know what you're gonna say. Please.
No.
Did you not? Okay.
I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's still out there. At one point, there existed a picture of me on the internet in a crappy Shino cosplay. This would be like Chunin exam era Shino, not like post time skip Shino, being duct taped to a chair.
Oh wow. Okay. So I'll be completely honest with you. I don't know where my head is at. You said Shino,
Yeah.
and this entire time my head was Anko.
That would be wild.
That's
That'd be
not Shino.
buck wild.
That's not who
No,
Shino is.
no,
It's like
it's
that's
not.
not actually the right
However, I
person.
think I want to see that picture more.
Hey, baby.
But
It's a
point is
snake.
it's shitty and it's bad. Don't read it.
Okay.
Don't like if you want to meme on it, look at dumb shit. Don't even do that.
It just so
it's,
I think I hate Undertale for a different reason.
oh yeah, they're not.
Yeah,
They're
but
not actually. The
Gosh,
same
I
thing at
really
all.
want to dive into that, but I want to stay on anime. You're hurting me.
I
here,
mean,
Joe.
we can get
You're hurting
there.
me.
We can get there. We can put a little tab on it and get back to that. I mean, we could. My thing with I guess taste and kind of back to what you were saying before. Like like we talked about it with Naruto. Like I think that had we gotten any of the anime that is prominent now, when we got Naruto in the US, anime would have been shut down a long time ago. There's no way it would have like been as prosperous here if Naruto wasn't one of the early ones. Because I think like the way that story, granted some of it was edited for us. Like there's a lot of stuff that was censored and like changed on its like release here, but I think that the way that story played out is part of the reason why we got things like Cowboy Bebop and things like that. Like well, I guess
hold
that.
on.
Well, yeah,
Definitely
like,
not
you're-
the- let's
You're saying a wild thing right now.
So what I'm getting at is like, if we didn't get Naruto first, we would not be looking at like My Hero. Like those things wouldn't have happened, in my opinion. And the reason I say it is because of how Naruto's story played out. Because if you were to get, say, like, I'm trying to think of, we used Sword Art as an example for that.
Okay,
Like if you take Naruto out of its timeline in like US anime history and replaced it with Sword Art, we probably wouldn't have anime the way we have it now, is what I'm getting at.
Now, are you? Because I feel like there's two different ways to interpret what you're saying. I want to make sure I'm interpreting it the right way.
Sure.
Are you saying in terms of anime as a medium, if we didn't have Naruto, the medium involves differently? Or are you saying in terms of how the United States, like the specific anime that get big here, the ones that are the big hits here wouldn't be big hits here if not for Naruto?
That is what I'm saying. I think anime would have been fine regardless, whatever happened here. That was irrelevant.
Okay.
I think specifically in the United States, and I guess that's important to me because that was how it was introduced to me. So the way that it was introduced to the US through like some of the early stuff like Pokemon and like that, like those things, Dragon Ball, like Sailor Moon, I think though was like very borderline because there's some stuff in there that we didn't get because it got censored here. But
They
like
were cousins.
yeah,
After all.
yeah,
Cousins.
it's just like it's just like wait, what? Huh? But like I guess those things slip through the crack, but I think Naruto overall is a important,
amazing.
anime.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's important is the way what I would say.
I'll agree with that, but I don't think it's for the reason that you're saying.
How so?
So I think, if you'll bear with me here, for
We got
our
time.
for my generation, to a lesser extent yours,
How different?
I'll be 32 next week.
That's 3 years. That's fine.
Oh, that's 3 years, but it's an important 3 years. It's a formative 3 years. All right, so for our generation, the big gateway that most people had was Toonami.
Sure.
Through that gateway, the biggest show on that was Dragon Ball Z.
Right.
For sure. For the generation that came after, the big gateway was Naruto.
Right.
Because while DBZ has been evergreen, to a certain extent. There's definitely been like lulls and dips in its popularity. Sure. I think Naruto, it's not that it influenced necessarily the kind of shows that got big here, because if you look at the broad spectrum of shows around the same time that the US was getting Naruto, we were getting Death Note, which I would argue for a lot of people
was
like
the same time.
Yeah, dude.
Huh.
I would argue.
I plan on talking about Death Note for a little bit today.
That's fine.
I would argue that show, I think, was a lot more influential into getting more people into anime than even Naruto was, but that's neither here nor there. The point that I'm making is Naruto, because it had such a broad appeal, was able to bring in a whole bunch of people that otherwise might not have given anime much of a second thought. And then those people, chose what series they like, split off from there. Maybe didn't follow Naruto all the way to the end. Like I didn't follow it all the way to the end, but
for the better.
I think it was really instrumental in being one of a couple of key gateways that we had for the generation that came after ours.
I can agree with that. I think you have said what I was thinking more eloquently. So because I don't disagree with anything that you said there. I am very curious as to what you want to say about Death Note, though.
Oh no, dude, we had this whole thing because, like, not to peel back the curtain a little bit, right? But when we were first talking about this, it was like, well, think about some of the anime moments that are really defining for you.
So that was the initial video I wanted to do, which we can definitely do like a little baby version of that.
I really want to talk about this one. I thought about it for so long ago. How much did I come to you and I'd be
dude,
like, I don't know what I want, but I want this.
We brainstormed, we talked back and forth.
Let's get into that then.
All right, I'm gonna go first.
Yes,
please.
So for whatever's sake.
Do keep in mind though, the next time we do actually do the initial thing, you can't use this one.
We've got multiple.
Okay,
don't
all right,
worry.
cool.
We had that discussion on the way here.
Gotcha. All right.
So for prosperity's sake or whatever, ask the question.
Okay.
Yeah. Get me in the zone here.
Okay, okay. So, what is a moment in anime that stands out to you, that maybe means something special to you, or is just a standout moment in anime? Go.
I liked that. That was good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, before I actually talk about the anime itself, just because this is the reason why I like it so much. Literally ever since I was like 10 probably, because I've watched cartoons. I've seen
right.
A lot of I watched all the old Transformers. I watched all the old X-Men in the 90s. X-Men. My dad got me on that all the time. So I've seen some pretty good like cartoon / anime varieties, right? Mm-hmm. And what bothered me, not necessarily bothered me, but I was always interested in something. I was always interested in was, why didn't the bad guy win more often? And I was always like fixated on that idea. So whenever I'd watch a new show or something growing up, I was always kind of like, I didn't necessarily want the bad guy to win, but I was always like, I wonder if he's actually gonna win this time, because I just want to see that on screen. A great example is Infinity War, Infinity War.
Yeah.
When I saw the movie in theaters, that hit that.
It was like.
So nothing ever really hit that beat in growing up, right? Like there's a few, what I'm gonna mention in Death Note.
Okay.
Obviously Death Note, we all know where I'm going with it, I think. So that basically that's the thing. I'm watching Death Note. I'm a young kid. I'm like 8.
Okay.
I wake up in the morning and I go to my grandma's house to wait for the bus to go to school every day. Early in the morning, when Adult Swim is still on, they showed Death Note on Toonami.
That 4 to 5 a.m. time.
I was gonna say, how early are you waking up to go to school? That's insane.
Yeah, no, like legit. I'd wake up super early, go to my grandma's house, eat a bowl of cereal, and just watch Death Note as it aired in like 04 or some shit like that. Because I'm a little kid.
Yeah.
It's been like 06, 08. I was in college, I think, when it was.
So I was about to say 04
was on
too
Toonami.
young, but
like the 06 to 10 range.
Somewhere in there. Something like that. But I'm 21 now.
Yeah.
Watched that show as it aired. So it's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's not that long. I've seen it so many times. I've read the manga a million times. I haven't read the new chapter. I actually didn't finish the new chapter that came out, but
didn't know there was a
Did you
new
hear about-
chapter
did you hear
that
about
came
that?
out.
In this, the year of our Lord, 2020.
This is that
19,
recent?
2019.
Oh, that's right. It was December, wasn't it?
Okay.
It was December.
And it also
Wow.
takes place in 2019.
Yeah.
He released a new chapter.
I don't know if I like that.
No, it's good. I thought
Okay.
the same thing. It's good.
I like the way.
You'll like it. You'll
Okay.
like it. It's good.
All right.
There's nothing bad about it.
Okay.
Um,
I'll read it.
it's super worth because it's like a 15-year difference, and they point out the fact that like, oh, we have security cameras everywhere now and shit like that. It's pretty interesting, actually.
Interesting. Okay.
But you know,
all right.
on that thing, I to this day remember the moment that I watched Elle die. And if you didn't think
Hey
I was
guys,
gonna
Elle
say something
dies,
about
like-
Death Note
Yes.
spoilery, oh well, whoops. I was like 9, right? I was a little kid. I was obsessed with this dude from the moment he got introduced. I was like, huh, he's emo. That's cool. There are pictures of me in
Why
long
does he
sleeve
sit like
white
that?
shirts,
Yeah.
my knees up, like black eyeliner on, and oh man, I just loved his character up and down. He was a super smart dude. He was, I don't know, y'all have seen it. He's great.
Yeah.
When that episode aired, it hit that nerve that I've wanted to have hit for the first time ever in my life at the time, so drastically, because I was just like, he's dead.
He's dead.
He's dead. He's actually fucking dead.
Yeah.
And the way they played out that episode / manga, because
Mhm.
Death Note's another great example, in my opinion, of shows and mangas that follow very closely.
Yeah.
It was almost spot
Yeah.
on accurate. It's very, very, very nice. It's just a good feeling, I guess. The scene happens when Watari is going up the elevator with Misa to meet Elle.
Mhm.
Elle's at the computer looking at all the security cameras. Watari dies first in the elevator, and he sees that happen on the screen. He sees his heart monitor hit 0, and then for the first time watching the show, you see him, Elle, actually get like really fucking worried. His eyes brighten, and then
Yeah.
he realizes everything all at once, and you're like, you were the good guy. Like,
Yeah.
why is this happening to you? You're the good guy, I thought. I guess. You're not the main character, technically,
Yeah.
but you are the good guy. And something about just how he goes, where he's sitting in a chair, and it just slowly tips over.
Yep.
And I had to go to school after seeing that, dude. I was devastated, but I was also like, this is weird.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy's winning. What? So that is definitely like, I will not ever forget how I felt exactly at that time. You know,
That's crazy because like I have a very similar appreciation for that in stories. It seems, I guess, to happen more often now, like where writers aren't afraid to let the bad guy at least get some ground. But it's very rare that like they just truly just obliterate like the good side. I think the thing for me, not necessarily the cool moment, sorry, that I have in like anime, but was the Code Geass. They had that back and forth between like neither side is wrong, but their methods are different, and I was just like, this is so good. Like that's why it is hands down for me is my favorite anime. Period. I think the story is just so good. Like even if you don't like, if you're not into anime at all, I think you could literally sit down and watch that and you'd get something out of it. It's so good. But yeah, I get that. I get that a lot. Like the because I think also if you grew up watching a lot of like just like American cartoons, that never happens ever. Like that just almost the closest thing to that was, I guess it's not even cartoons, it's comics, but like Joker killing Robin. Like that's the that's, I'm sure there's other things like that, but like even like the Bane backbreaking thing, instantly he's just like, yeah, I fixed it. Like it's like there's never a moment where it's just like this thing has happened and this has catastrophic like consequences for like the rest of the story. So I get that, man. That's dope.
That's a great one.
Yeah,
man.
that is a really good one.
A+.
Golf clap.
Thank you.
Mark.
I'm gonna be honest. I struggled with this a bit,
Oh, boy.
not because of lack of choice, but it was like, oh, man, like I felt almost like I was expected to pick a One Piece moment. Right? I'm the One Piece guy, and clearly I have plenty.
There's a lot of good ones in there, though.
There's some amazing ones, but I thought about it, I'm like, well, I could talk about this, I could talk about this, and I started thinking about other shows and things like that I could talk about. And what I hit on, and I sort of mentioned to Gabe on our ride over here, is that
I forgot.
that's
No,
fine.
just wanna make sure that's right.
I had a bit of a revelation, at least about the media that I consume.
Okay.
In general. So a lot of anime that I've consumed has been very long form stories. And when I think about the ones that, like, the moments that impact me the most, almost all of them are from much longer form stories. Like when I
Okay.
thought about the ones that could really be gut punches, there were probably like 10 from One Piece that I considered.
Sure.
I narrowed it down pretty quick. But I was like, even so, there's from just the half of Naruto that I watched, there's some really good ones before it even hits the time skip that I could talk about. Brotherhood, my wife's favorite anime. There's, I think that's the one I'm saving for next time,
Yeah,
is what I
okay.
landed on.
Okay.
But it's like there's stuff in that I could talk about. But aside from some very like shorter series that are designed for the series as a whole to be an emotional gut punch,
Mhm.
like Anohana comes to mind. I don't know if you've heard or read that one.
I'm not.
No. Would highly recommend, but only if you want to cry. It's very good. But aside from series that are designed to do that, when I thought about shorter series that I really liked, like Outlaw Star, Gundam Wing came to mind. Even going past some of the Toonami ones, like Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, there were great moments that I liked in all of those shows, but nothing that I was like, no, this is top 10 for sure. Like nothing. So I thought about that. It's like, well, if you think about it, right? And this is gonna get really morbid for a second, so bear with me.
Angel
Right?
Beats. I'm
No,
be up. Okay,
no.
all right,
No.
cool.
But I was just thinking, like, so I was trying to figure, why is that? Why is it that my biggest moments all come from these really long form series? I'm like, well, if you think about it, it's really simple, right?
Yeah.
So I've known Gabe for 2 years now.
Mm.
If Gabe died today, I'm not gonna kill you on the ride home. Don't worry. But if Gabe died today, I'd be really sad. I'd be torn
Right.
up. That said, in a couple of weeks, just less than that now, I think I'm going on vacation.
Mhm.
Gonna go visit some friends in North Carolina.
Yep.
I've known at least a couple of them for close to a decade now. If one of them died, I'd be devastated.
Right.
I'd be an emotional wreck. It's like, well, it makes sense then, right?
Yeah.
The longer you're
Invest.
attached to a story, the longer you see these characters and see them grow and change and evolve. It's only natural that you're going to get more and more and more and more attached and more deeply and deeply and deeply invested in these stories. And that's one of the biggest benefits to long form storytelling. We've seen, American comics take advantage of that time and time again. And almost all of the big shonen shows that run forever and ever and ever take advantage of that. Now, that said, the moment I chose was one of the earliest One Piece moments that really just cut me to the core. It cut me to the core the first time I saw it, probably 15 years ago. If I'm in that weird headspace where it's like, I want to cry, but tears aren't coming, I put this on, I'm there. I'm there with beyond a shadow of a doubt.
I'm trying to think of what it is. I have guesses in my head, but
so, and I think it definitely, the meaning that it holds changed for me from when I first saw it to now. Because when I first saw it, I was very much just like in the moment and with these characters, with what's going on. Now I think it's a little bit different, but I'll get to that. The moment I'm talking about specifically comes in Arlong Park.
Yep. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah.
So
I was like, early, really like gut wrenching, like a moment that grows on you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So for those of you less initiated or not initiated with One Piece, Arlong Park is the arc that's the culmination of early One Piece. Anime wise, it takes up the space from roughly like episode 30 to 45. which doesn't sound like a lot, but
There's a lot that happens.
There's
there.
a lot going on there, and let me apologize in advance because I can feel just thinking about it. I can feel the tears coming.
It's fine.
I'm gonna cry. First time on your show, I guarantee I'm gonna cry. That's fine. So you've grown to know these characters, and you find out this one character who's been around since close to the beginning, Nami.
Yep.
You find out her motivation, her backstory, why she's doing what she's doing, like all of the shit that she's going through, and that at this point she's like double crossed your main characters. Yep. But you find out she was in a position where she had to, was trying to do it in like the least hurtful way possible, like best of intentions, all of that. And she's right at what should be her moment of triumph, right? Like she's been working towards this goal for 10 years in story. She's right there about to get it. Boom, it's snatched away from her. Everything crumbles in an instant. So first crushing defeat right there.
Yep.
So then she goes to like calm down the townsfolk who are rightfully pissed because like she's been sacrificing for 10 years. This is some bullshit.
Yeah.
We about to go do a thing. So she shows up and she's like, guys, no, like, don't worry about it. It's fine. I'll just start from scratch, like forcing down all of the hurt and everything that she feels, putting on this strong face. And they're like, no, you've done enough.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're ready. Like, go live your life.
Yeah.
And they go off on what should very well be a suicide mission. Falls to her knees and looks over at her shoulder where like there's essentially a brand, like the brand of this asshole she's been serving and been subservient to, who's now fucked her over, taken literally everything from her. And she just has this really powerful emotional fit where she's like grasping at her shoulder. You can see everything flashing in front of her eyes, grabs a dagger, just starts going to town, stabbing her arm over and over again, screaming in pain. And until finally Luffy like steps in, holds her hand. She's like, has one last fit of resistance, and then finally tearfully asks for help.
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful moment.
Yep.
It's the moment I knew I had my wife hooked. Like it's such a big resonating moment that if you're on the fence and somehow have made it that far, that's what makes people a believer in the power of this show. But I think now that I'm older and I've seen it, like I've said, if I need to cry, that's my go-to because I can cry, but there's also like there's hope at the end of it. But I think especially, it can be relatable at any age, but the older you get, the more likely it is that you've gone through this where just, shit happens, stuff's going on in your life. You scratch and claw and nothing seems to be going right. You feel like you're at the end of your rope. And if you're lucky enough and smart enough to realize what to do, you ask for help. And the first time I saw that, that's not something I had been through at that point in my life. Now that I have been through that on a very personal level, it hits me in almost a deeper way than it did the first time around. And it was damn good the first time around.
It's pretty good. I think it's beautifully animated too. Like they have, I don't know who, if there's like a dedicated team for the art for One Piece, but tragic moments in that show are so beautifully like animated that, like, another spoiler alert, when Ace dies, there's the look on Lucy. He's like, what the fuck?
You gonna be all right, bro? You gonna make it?
The part that I said I stopped at, that was that part.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I was like, oh, this is easily one of my favorite anime characters I've ever seen on screen ever. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm done.
When Ace dies, there's another there's a comic. I don't know how much in the comics you guys are, especially DC. I know DC is not that popular sometimes, but there's a Luffy's wailing like while he's holding Ace, who is dead in his arms, and him looking up, and it's so visceral, and the fact that he is a rubber man and how expressive his face is because of that. There's another guy in I don't remember his name in DC Comics, but there's a comic called, or a series called Kingdom Come, and in it someone basically is on a serial killing spree of killing a bunch of heroes, and there's a guy who he can shapeshift and is very rubbery like that, and he's at his wife, who was also a superhero's funeral, and all the other heroes around him, and he is just falling apart literally. Like his hand is literally drooping through his fingers, and he's just sobbing and crying. And I remember those two moments because it's like, that is so, like, it just captures despair in such a way that you don't get to see that often. But yeah, I as you were leading up to that, I was just like, what moment is it? He's talking about Nami. Like that's where he's going, because I remember that scene, and I think the thing that like sticks with me about that scene is that part is big, but for me it was the smile that Luffy had after she asked for help, because he knew, like, he was just kind of hanging out there, just kind of like, all you gotta do is ask. Like, yeah. I can deal with all of this. This is nothing for me. But all you gotta do is ask. And like the moment I think there's 2 points where that happens. It's once there, and one more time when she's in the tower and he's there, and
he just starts busting up the place.
Yeah, and he's sitting there just waiting for. He's like, if you just say the word, we'll fucking like go to town on these guys. It's so good. It's like if you ever there's a lot of anime that like harp on the whole friendship thing, but I think that does such a good job of like, your friends, your good friends, they want to help you, but they can't help you if you don't like make the first like step. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. That is a very, very big moment. I think not just in One Piece, but in all of anime. It's crazy. Like, yeah. It's
actually funny that that was sort of your original topic idea, because when I was thinking about it, like apparently a week ago, IGN put out a list of like their top 10 One Piece moments. Their top 3, I think, all were pretty interchangeable, but for one, they did go with Arlong Park, and I was like,
yeah like it's right. There's a lot of like the Robin thing where she gets that's huge too, but like if you compare the two, Arlong Park is just there's more emotion, which is weird too, because you would think that there'd be more emotion in the Robin thing because you've had a longer story to build up with these characters, but I don't know. I
think part of that's personal experience. I talked a little bit about why Nami resonates so strongly with me, and another strong contender that I thought about was Vivi in Alabasta. One thing I realized going through the podcast was like, oh shit, like there's a lot of qualities of myself that I see in Vivi, and like this is hitting me 20 million times harder now than it ever did before. But for my wife, the Enies Lobby Robin's I Want to Live is the way more impactful moment for a lot of the same reasons, in that she can see and sort of have like that connection. Like she connects much more strongly with Robin as a character than she connects to Nami or connects to Vivi. So I mean, part of that is definitely just what you've experienced in your life going into those moments is going to make them resonate that much harder.
Yeah, I don't think I had anything, and that might be the reason why, like what you're just, I don't think I had a moment like that in my personal life at the point that I saw that. So like, but what's weird though is the same thing would go for Arlong Park. Like I didn't, but there's something about the way I remember that part in that series that always stands out. It's crazy. That and the moment where Zoro basically turns to Luffy and says, if you let Usopp back, I'm out. And I mean, like that's a really good moment too. Like,
I mean, that's to say nothing of the duel that even kicked all that off, which is all like, dude, don't get me like
they have so many. That's what I'm saying. There's so many good moments.
It was really, really difficult to pick, but for me, the top is always Arlong Park. Part of it just could be that it was like there were always stakes in that show. Luffy was always fighting for something important. But that was the first time, I think, in which they sort of truly elevated the stakes to a much grander level.
Mm.
So I think that's part of it, the emotion. And for me, like the best, this is going to be a weird sentence, so bear with me. The best moments of despair are the ones that are followed by hope. Because like despair for the sake of despair is the quickest reason I will stop reading something, stop watching something, just get completely out of something. If you just have like that sort of negativity on negativity on negativity, like some people that's their cup of tea, that's fine. But for me, it's like the presence of hope that makes all of that mean something. If there's never any hope, what's the point of having those super lows? Like that's eating ice cream for every meal, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter
There's
how
no
much you like
substance.
ice cream, you need to have something to be the counterpoint to that.
Gabe's like, but I like
Dude, I ate way too much ice cream last year. And as of right now, I disagree.
Have you seen Black Clover at all?
No,
Okay.
I have not.
I wish you had, because there's a moment in there that's kind of like that, where it's like they don't do a good job of
Anything?
subtlety is not they don't know what that word means. Like there's literally a character in there who just in the entire fight is just like despair, I'm gonna crush you guys, brr. And I'm just like, what you are doing is impactful. Basically, there was a. Okay, I'm gonna try to get through this real quick. So there's a. You guys care if I spoil this for you?
Not
It's
in the
Black Clover.
slightest.
It's like
Not in the slightest. That's not
Okay.
even on my radar.
All right, cool, good. I stopped watching it after that part. Actually, after this like arc kind of ended, I was like, what is this show? But there was a mage. I think they're all mages. Wizard, witch. Yes. Okay. There's a witch. They go to this underwater area, as most anime do. They always have some water thing.
The water level.
The water
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
They do that. There's a main group of bad guys who have some really absurdly powerful people. We'll get back to them. They get to this little water temple. They meet two people. One of them is the prince and his sister, which I'm assuming is a princess at that point. Her whole thing is that she can sing. That's her magic thing. She sings, and the waves do magic shit. His whole thing is he dances, and magic shit happens.
Okay, so a bard and a dancer. Gotcha.
Exactly. So the main characters get there, and they run into one of these really bad guys, who's way stronger than them. Like absurd. Like the only way they were even able to beat him, it took like 4 or 5 of them to beat him. That was it. Like otherwise they would have been all killed. But before that fight, this main bad guy who's like, I'm gonna make sure you guys despair before I kill you, burp, burp, burp. He crushes the windpipe of the girl who sings, so she could not even talk, and cuts off the leg of the guy who dances. And I was like, oh man, that's crazy. But like those moments don't have nearly the impact, because to be fair, this is over the span of like maybe 5-6 episodes. So like you meet these characters and like they give you a little bit of the backstory, but you don't know them. Yeah. You don't care about them. Like there was a really cool way they introduced them, and it was nice. But
it goes back to what we were saying about long form storytelling.
Right.
Stuff is going to have way more weight if you actually take the time to flesh it out and develop it. If you just have these drive-by tragedies, like, oh yeah, that sucks, but
nice leg.
Yeah. The best part is like the next arc fixed. like the next arc, someone heals the girl, and like they're like, hey, we still have your leg in this tube, this jar. We got this dude who's really good at like medical magic or whatever, and it's attached. And I was just like, what? So like just so Star Wars, but but I think if I had to throw my just a very quick moment, I guess for me, I was not mentioning Angel Beats because I said I think it was bad.
Let's
because
continue to not mention Angel Beats.
Are you still watching it?
Oh no.
Okay,
right. I just don't like it.
What? Really?
I'm not a big Angel Beats fan.
You finished it?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How?
It's no. Okay. See, now it makes it like I hate the show.
No.
So it's a good show.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. But that's really all I have to say.
It could be at the time that I watched it. There was something I took from that show that was very pertinent to my life at the moment, and it was just an appreciation for the people that I have around me, which I definitely didn't have at one point. So the way have you seen Angel Beats?
I vaguely know of it.
Do you care if I spoil how
Not
it
in the
ends?
slightest.
Okay, all right. So, spoiler alert for those of you who have not seen Angel Beats. It's one of, in my opinion, one of the best endings to an anime, and it's not a happy ending. It is a very sad ending. You know what? I can see somebody who can interpret it as a happy ending.
Like bittersweet, maybe.
Yeah. But the whole premise is these kids have died at an early age because they're kids, and instead of like being reincarnated or whatever, they get stuck in this like little limbo thing.
Okay.
They don't realize this at first, but they eventually do realize that that's what's happened, and they get to the point where they realize that, oh, we need to get past whatever the thing is that's holding us in this limbo thing. And some of them pass before others, but they end up doing this graduation ceremony thing, and they're all kind of together, and because none of them got to graduate because they all died when they were young. They in the ceremony, they go through the whole process. That's not like very touching. What to me was extremely touching was how they passed on. There was no ceremony to it. They just they literally be there, and then they were gone instantly. Like to the point where like they would literally try to high five each other, but like as they would do it, the person would be gone. So like there would never be like a sound. It was literally just like nothing, and then that person's just gone. And that happens like back to back like 4 times until you're stuck with the main character and this other character that's very important to the story. I realize now this microphone's not even facing me. That's okay. And he kind of breaks. And throughout the entire show, he's got humor. He's got like a bunch of like he's like the semi backbone of the whole like friend group. Like he's keeping everybody together and kind of pushing the story forward. But in this one last final episode, he just breaks. He's like, "Wait, we don't have to do this." Like, and he begins crying and begging her to just like, don't leave. We can stay here. We can help all the other kids that will come through here. Like, just making up these ridiculous excuses to just not accept what was going on in front of him. And she's just like, nah, like, we're supposed to do this. And it's just crazy. Like, he gets to a point where he's just crying and he's on his knees and he goes to like try to hold her, gone. And instead of a high five this time, she's just gone. And now you're just left with this guy all of his friends are gone. He's stuck here and his thing was he is forced to accept that in order for him to pass on. And I think the way they wrote it, the way that like it was animated, the voice actors, just how that whole thing was put together, it is so beautiful. Like, so that being said, I can understand why you don't like Angel Beats. There's a lot of stupid stuff in there. It's a lot of silly stuff too. It's just that the ending of that anime is so, to me, it's very impactful. Like it's close to what I would say to the Code Geass ending too. But I think, actually, I'd say in terms of the feels level, like if we put numbers in like a little stat bar, it probably has more in the feels realm than Code Geass. But Code Geass, in my opinion, has just a stellar ending. So, and that's a very biased opinion. But
well, I mean, Geass, we've talked about long form storytelling. I'm not even the one drinking claws. Yeah. We've talked about that, but there's something to be said for, having a specific tight story, the beginning, middle, and end that you want to tell.
The weird thing with Angel Beats is like the middle of the story, it's pretty random. Like they do some stuff that doesn't make sense for how the story's going to end. And sometimes I wonder if that was just, they didn't know how it was going to end. But regardless of how they got to that point, I think it was just perfectly executed. So
your explanation of the ending makes me want to watch it again.
It's
because I'll straight up say it's a very good ending, and he points it out very well. It like it kind of fucks you up for a second.
It's
Dude,
Because you're just like,
I talked about
oh,
Anohana
shit.
earlier. You don't gotta tell me
Okay.
about getting
You
fucked up.
mentioned it, and I'm angry because I don't want to talk about Anohana because it's sad as hell.
Yeah.
And I don't want to cry on camera with like lights.
Dude, I'm already there.
glistening off
Dude,
my
join the
tears.
club.
join the
me.
club. Yeah.
Join me.
Anohana. That's I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
Okay, I want to look that up because I've not heard of that. This is my first time hearing.
It's
Anohana, the flower we saw that day.
Whew.
That's the full title.
Yes.
Okay,
Very good.
what does it fall into, like a genre, or is it kind of a thing of its own?
It's a drama.
It's a
Okay.
drama. There's some lighter hearted moments to it, but it deals with very very tough subject matter, I would say. Do you mind? Do you want to hear like the basic premise?
Sure, start me off.
You'll
Yeah.
like the.
The basic premise there was this very tight knit friend group.
Okay.
There's a tragedy. One of them dies very young. They drift apart. One of them basically becomes like a shut in recluse loner, and then all of a sudden, apropos of like nothing, he can just see like the spirit of his dead friend. Like she can talk to him, he can talk to her, they can interact, and he's just like, is this like a hallucination?
Yeah.
Is this grief? Like, what is going on here? And a lot, basically, it's a show about, friendships that drift apart, coming to terms with loss, and all done through that sort of
That's pretty
supernatural lens.
It's too real.
No.
It's like a
It's
real
way too
anime.
real. It is
Yeah.
really real.
But I mean, those moments are the stuff that I really like. I love that real, like the supernatural stuff is cool and it's flashy. Like I remember we were talking about like favorite moments in Naruto, and one of my favorite moments was when Asuma dies. Like I think that's such a good.
That's like right where you stop. Right?
Yeah, don't
Why am I
don't
doing
come
this
for
thing?
my
Like,
brand
literally
right
the same
there.
thing and then the same thing right there.
Ooh.
But no, it's so good. Like I love those very real human moments.
Why are you doing this to
That's
me, Gabe?
Asuma in an eggshell.
Why
Yeah,
are you
yeah.
doing this to me?
But
Dead.
for
I just came here to cry about anime, not to get called out
You're the
like
one that's
this.
talking about all the sad shit. You
Yeah.
mentioned Anohana. You're the reason.
That's
we're
fair.
here
That's
right
fair.
now.
Maybe the next time we do this, it might end up being like more upbeat stuff. But
It better be because
Yeah.
I've been on some depressing
Oh, no.
conversations.
I that's something I kind of need to learn to gauge, because I love going there with people, but I need to get better at knowing when people don't want to. Because I guess the way that I deal with those kind of conversations might be different than others. Like for me, the what's the word? Cathartic? I guess the cathartic nature of like diving deep into those thought bubbles is, I don't know. It does me more good when I do that. I feel better at the other end of it,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's the case for everyone. So like,
It's not, and
yeah,
part of
yeah.
that's just where you're at life. There
Yeah.
was definitely a time in my life when I did not want to dive
Yeah.
deep into that stuff, and I'm a bit more honest with my emotions now, I think.
I think that's, not to get too socially political, I guess. I don't know where this even falls now. But I think that's something that generally and stereotypically guys struggle with more. Like there's a lot of times where like, especially I know me growing up, like there's this stereotype or stereotypical like stoic guy, you don't show your emotions, you don't cry, like that's not, so like
You're a man.
you're a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
That was my
yeah.
dad,
It's like
too.
man,
I
yeah.
understand
Like
that.
I think that I get very I try to be very careful when I talk about this stuff, because I think there's a place for that. I don't think that that's bad. I think knowing when to be stoic and when to like allow yourself to be vulnerable is the thing that I think people struggle with.
Yeah,
I say that because I feel like I'm very much for people being okay with being vulnerable, but I don't want people to just stop there, you know? Like I think that there's validity in really understanding your emotions and knowing when to display what, if that makes any sense.
Well, and there's there's a difference. I would say there's a big difference between delaying when you deal with your emotions and bottling your emotions.
Yes,
the latter I think is very much what the older generation did and sort of the values they pressed on. But if, like, God forbid, right, something were to happen to a member of my family or something like that, I'd have to deal with that, but there's shit that I would still have to do. Like, I have the luxury of not being an only child, right? But when my parents go, someone is going to have to put that shit aside and deal with arranging funerals, dates, and all that sort of stuff. And that's real hard to do if you're letting everything run unchecked. But by the same token, you still got to deal with those emotions. It's just being able to say, I'm going to deal with this, just not right now.
Right. I don't.
Bottling causes problems.
That's dangerous.
Bottling caused my mental breakdown. I can tell you that. Woohoo!
I think that's the case for most people. Like, that's just not a healthy way of dealing with any of that stuff. We have a mutual friend, acquaintance. I don't know what your guys' relationship is with him. I don't want to say his name because I don't know if that's something he really wants to talk about.
No call outs.
Yeah, I think you guys know who I'm talking about, where he had to deal with something like that recently, and I remember talking to him about that, and I think tragedy sucks, right? Like that kind of stuff it's never gonna be, it's never gonna feel good. But I have noticed after that just a level of like maturity and just very level-headedness, and just he's changed as a person for the better because he allowed himself to be like vulnerable with certain people. And I think on the other end of that, he's realized like, oh, that this isn't bad. Like, this is actually the opposite of that. This is really good. But I'm actually going to have him on next. It'll be a second foray here on the podcast, but yeah.
I want to mention something just because we're on this topic.
Yeah, let's have it.
I think that topics like these are interesting because I tend to hang out with people that are older than me.
Sure.
I'm of a younger
we've established
age here. Yes, we did establish that.
You're 11.
I am 11. I am new and recent to that, a lot of that shit, because like, so my family, literally everyone in my family up to like great grandparents all had kids really young.
Wow. Okay.
So I grew up with like my great grandmother. Like, I knew her for years. And she was like the first family member that passed away. And even then I was like little and stuff. So emotion's weird when you're a kid, you know, you don't think about it much until you're older. Like 2 years ago now, almost 2 years ago now, I lost my great grandfather. And he was someone so the death note,
right.
My grandparents' house, it was their house that I was at watching.
Gotcha.
So I lived, I was like,
very
houses
close.
I lived on their property for years.
Dang.
I grew up there.
That's crazy.
And
they were that young.
That was weird. That was the first time I actually had to deal with that kind of shit, and it sucked because it was right before Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not that there's ever a good time.
Yeah, that's true.
It was
like,
right before. It was shitty and unfortunate, and I had to like, I don't know. So it's like there's this moment where everything, like, it's like a light switch in your head, you know, where you don't really think about anything sad.
Yeah.
Because you're living your life.
Yeah.
And everything's great. And then you're like, after the fact, the light switch just kind of flicks on, and you're like, oh, this is something I have to think about and deal with now. And that light switch for me was I was sitting in my grandma's house, like after the fact. She had a priest come to the house and like give prayer and stuff. And I was just kind of sitting there, and I wasn't thinking much about it because even at this point, I was still kind of like, oh, he's not really gone.
Yeah.
And this was recent for me. I was
yeah.
like 19, you know, and this is the first time that I had to actually deal with this. And I was like, oh fuck, okay, this really sucks. And I don't look forward to aging because of this.
Yeah.
So like you just mentioned,
it doesn't get easier.
It sucks, but eventually someone's got to do funeral plans and shit like that. I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
person. I'm the oldest. I have a younger brother.
Yeah.
That's gonna be me. I don't want to think about that.
Like I've been very fortunate to not. I haven't had that. Well, okay, so I haven't had that experience yet. But I have been to my grandfather's funeral, and I was never very close with my extended family, mostly because my parents moved from the Virgin Islands to the States. And my brother, while he was born, he's in there, by the way. I probably should have told that. It's like playing Dota Underlords or something. I think actually he's been playing City of Heroes for some reason. But,
oh man,
yeah, like he's been grinding.
Dude, I've been hitting that hard myself.
Really? Okay,
yeah.
All right. He was like trying to get me into it. I'm like, but Apex Legends. But I remember going to that funeral. Granted, let me back up. Continue what I was saying. So he was born in St. Thomas. I was born in Sumter, South Carolina. I'm the only person in my family that was born in the mainland U.S. states, and because of that, I never got to know a lot of I met them over the years, and I know who they are, but I never connected with them. But I remember being at that funeral, and I was not sad, but what impacted me from that funeral was my mother, who was visibly just distraught, just her dad died. So obviously she's really upset. And it was the moment of me consoling someone who has consoled me before, and it was just oh, okay, there it is. I was like, that's the feeling. And now I'm almost I'm almost 30, and I've recently, I don't get to see my parents that often, but they both came through town recently, and in just kind of hanging out with them for a little bit, I was like, there will be a moment where I will have to deal with that. And I don't know how I will deal with that really at this point, but it's not something that I'm genuinely afraid of anymore. Because I think after my grandfather's death, it was something that was always in the back of my mind that was very frightening. But now it's more of just I don't know how I'll deal with it, but I'll deal with it. Because there's a lot of moments where the saying I don't know how I'll deal with it implies that I'm not going to be able to deal with it. But I think I will be able to. I just don't know how I'll manage it. But,
I mean, that's a time thing. That's
I'm envious, man.
Yeah.
I don't have that mindset myself. I wish I could.
I think part of it, this is sad, but I think part of it is because I never really, this is something that I'm getting better at now, because I realize that this is a flaw in the way that I kind of interact with people. And it also makes it very difficult for me to make really good, deep friends with people. I have a point where I kind of go, yeah, cool, we're friends. And then I stop, where I kind of go, okay, but if I get too invested with this person, anything bad happens, that's going to hurt me. But now I kind of gotten to the point, there's a particular friend now that I've allowed myself to go, you know what? Let's just keep going and see what happens. And so far it's been great. It's been nice. So I recognize that is a bad thing, and I think that also helps me not feel the full weight of what is to come, I guess, when it comes to my parents, because even in those relationships, I love them to death, but there's definitely a part where it's I know that there's a wall to a certain extent between my parents and myself that maybe will prevent me from feeling that despair or sorrow, I guess, or whatever, when that time comes. But if the one way I look at it, though, is if that is the case, and that's just kind of how I deal with it, at least I may be the person that deals with the funeral prep and all that stuff. So it's not all of a bad thing. If I have that blockage there, I guess, is the way I look at it. It's okay, if that's there, how can I make this a good thing? So, but I remember being in the position that you were in, where it's just oh shit, I have to care about this now, or I have to think about this now.
Oh, I went into this weird prep mode for a year, a while, where I was watching videos titled "How to Cope with Death."
Oh wow!
For quite some time, because it did change my perspective pretty hard. and I was just like, it took like I said, it took like a year, but I'm very glad to say that at my young age, I'm very much at a point
you're
where
lucky.
I
Very lucky.
have definitely accepted that death is just a part of life.
Yeah.
And that also helped with being afraid of death because like it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And when you can't think of the term, but like you know how people like death in pop culture is just like the dude with the reaper,
right.
the scythe. If when you die, that's who you see, I'm just gonna fucking high five this.
It's like, what's
dude
up,
and be
dude?
like, I'm ready to go, man. Let's
It's like,
go.
can I get one of those?
Yeah,
like to have
right?
one of-
Like-
that'd be cool.
like and I'm hoping that I can just keep that for the next however many fucking years I live, and
yeah,
hopefully it works.
that's ideal, I guess.
Yeah, that's great.
I love the fact that we went from anime.
Dude, anime makes you think about
yeah,
This is
heavy
my
shit.
favorite.
Yeah.
This is my
Like-
favorite way to have a conversation.
There's a link. Anime, like I have definitely. Anime can be very therapeutic in a lot of ways when you find something that's very analogous to something you've gone through, something you're going through. I mean, people find inspiration in a lot of places. Anime is one of them. There's definitely some heavy shit that you can, deal with.
That's why we love it so
Yeah.
much. There's so much.
I mean,
just heavy
don't get
shit.
me wrong. Like any medium, there's
Sure.
tons of garbage and
Yeah.
and stuff like that out there. Like people look at film as a medium. You're not going to talk about Jack and Jill in the same breath as Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I just did. So
Yeah.
here we are.
I do think that there's a lot that anime does differently because of its origin and like the culture that it comes from, and because of that, it tells those stories in a different way. That because like if I were to take, I'm trying to think of what anime is close to like Batman Beyond as possible.
oh, hold on.
Whew.
Give me a second
Like-
here. Damn, you said Batman Beyond, and I was like, oh, I got this.
I got this, no problem.
No.
There's not a well. In order for
I'm
that,
sure you could
There's,
find
yeah, I'm sure
something.
there's
I'm
something
sure.
like that. I hate to say it, but there could be one of the newer Sword Art Online things where you have
Well, I mean,
a
let's
mentor kind of thing. I hate Sword Art Online, by the way. It's not even in my top like anything. It's
I'm really trying to hold back words.
you like Sword Art Online?
We almost had this conversation.
Did
last
we?
time, and I held back the
He
words.
did. He did.
How?
You watched it, didn't you?
I listened. I
Yeah,
listened.
You listen.
You
Yeah.
wa-
Here's the thing, right?
okay.
The first season is a
Mhm.
bad show. Episodes 1 of the first season, episodes 1 through 12.
You've seen Sword Art?
No,
Okay,
I haven't.
All right.
Episodes 1 through 12 of the first season are actually just a good show. It is a good show.
Of the second season or the first?
Season.
Okay.
It is
all
a
right.
good show. And you got to remember, you watched it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I've seen.
The
yeah.
elf shit
Yeah.
is also season 1. You got to remember that. That's also season 1.
Really?
Correct. Season 1 goes all through Sword Art and through Alfheim. That's season 1.
Wow.
It makes no fucking sense to me.
Yeah.
And then they
Shit.
go Sword Art 2, Sword Art Online 2,
Right.
which is a amazing anime. Sword Art Online 2 is really good, and the only thing you have to get past is
I don't know if I've seen Sword Art 2 now.
it's good. Do
Okay.
you have any idea what
I
it's
don't
about?
think so.
They're in a world called Gun Gale Online, and it's all military.
Oh, you know what? I've seen the video game.
It's like Call of Duty, but VR.
Yeah.
It's really neat. The only thing that's stupid, the real dumb shit, is that, like, and this is a whole different topic in its own, and when you do this thing correctly, it makes sense and it's good. But when you make a character a different gender, or you make them look like a different gender, something along those
Mhm.
lines, right? There's plenty of different ways this can stretch out. But when you do it just because, and it's so obvious that it's just because,
There's no other reason for it.
there's no other fucking
Other
reason
than
for
for
it.
like
Because
cosplayers to be like, hey, I can
I'm
do,
a
like
huge fucking supporter of, like, without going into a whole bunch of stuff, the LGBTQ community
Sure,
shit being
yeah.
portrayed in normal shit normally. Please do that. I want to see that.
the normal part is the important thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you do it just because, it fucking ruins everything. And the start of the second season is main character Kirito. He goes into Gun Gale on like a mission kind of. He goes in to investigate shit because there's killings and stuff. It's really neat. It's actually like about a series. It's pretty good. Pretty good. I actually really enjoy the second season. When he spawns in as a character model that is completely androgynous. They have long hair, like it's like they're just complete androgynous. And he has no idea. It's just a random spawn in.
Yeah.
And it's like some dude runs up to him and he's like, "Oh my god, you have this model character? That's fucking crazy." And he's like, "Whatever." So the entire show, he's got long hair, and at first glance you're like, "Oh, he's a girl avatar." And they're like, "No, he's not." But there is zero reason for that.
Huh. Like, I feel like I've seen this.
Like,
I mean,
it's
the reason is that, like we talked about earlier, there's some stuff maybe that for as rough as things can be in the States, maybe Japan is even slightly less progressive about.
Yes, that's a very
that's the reason.
Okay, well, when I say no reason, I'm allowed to not like that specifically.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
That is exactly what it is. But that one moment thing aside, if you've seen Sword Art Season 1, which you have, Season 2 is actually really good. It's actually a really good show.
I don't think I've sat down. I think I've maybe seen like 1 or 2 episodes of it. Then...
Oh, man. Sorry, now I'm just thinking about scenes. Fuck. Sorry.
Yeah. Because I was under the impression that the elf thing was Season 2.
Exactly.
Like
everyone else was, myself included. Like it basically should have been a Season 2.
Yeah. Because it was very different.
Yeah, it was very different. It was like okay, to be fair, I could be completely fucking wrong because I realized recently we were having a conversation. We were talking about Soul Eater, which is another probably top 5 anime I've ever seen. I love Soul Eater.
All right, let's see where this goes. All right,
that's a little higher than it should be, but all right.
Cut Season 4 out. Really good. I want to have a conversation with you.
No, yeah, we're all
with it. Let's do this.
Two conversations we're trying to have. We were talking about Soul Eater, and I was saying, "Oh, it's 4 seasons," and you were like, "No, it's not." And I was like, "Yeah, it's 4 fucking seasons. I watched it, Mark." Like ready to go have this argument, and you're like, "No, it's not." And I looked it up, and I was like, "Fuck, it's not." Why did I think it was 4 seasons? I looked it up. Netflix specifically had it cut in 4 seasons. So when I watched Soul Eater, I literally watched it in 4 separate seasons, and I was like,
I can explain that, actually.
Oh, thank you.
So what Netflix does a lot of the times, I don't know if this is necessarily by design or just really crazy coincidence, Netflix tends to cut things up in the same way that initial DVD release cuts it up. Soul Eater was initially released in 4 parts on DVD. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. So if Netflix was following that, they would cut that accordingly. Same thing happened with Brotherhood, where they cut it into, I want to say Brotherhood originally came out in 5 pieces. And so when it was on Netflix, I don't know if it still is, they had it cut into 5 seasons. Now that's what I think Brotherhood actually is, so that worked out, but you get the point.
The funny thing about Brotherhood specifically, though, is that when I watched it, I started on Netflix, and for a long time, Netflix ended at a random episode. Netflix ended, I can tell you the episode too. You've seen Brotherhood, right? Yes. Netflix ended on the first episode, not even mid-fight, like not even the end of the fight. The first episode of the Armstrong versus Sloth.
Oh yeah, they ended halfway through the promise day. Yeah,
he was halfway like, "I'm here," and they're like, "Let's do a tag team," and they're like, "End of the fucking show," and you're like,
"Wait, what?
What? That is, I know that is not true, but
that's hilarious."
But there's a reason we were talking about that, and it's fine.
Seasons.
Yeah.
I think that is stupid, but I also have a lot of appreciation for Netflix as they bring back shows that I actually really like. So
the easiest way to usually tell, and this is a little wild, but especially when it comes to anime 99.9999999% of the time, when they have a season change, they'll change openings. So having never seen Sword Art Online, let me ask you, is it the same opening between the 12 episodes that you like and this elf stuff that you're talking about?
Nope, it does.
So they probably are actually different seasons. Sword Art 2 might just be considered like a different show, maybe.
They do that sometimes.
Sword Art, that is how it is. So Sword Art 1 is probably 2 seasons
the
1,
regular
1,
yeah.
and then
Sword Art 2.
It's literally called Sword Art Online 2, and it's just one season. Great. I think it's worth the watch because it's talking about like those high impact moments and shit. That one's so how the first show is all about killings and shit.
Sure.
The first feels like a video game.
Right.
That's the point of it.
Yeah.
The second season is about killings also, but it feels more like a serial killer because
Sword Art 2?
Sword Art 2.
Okay.
Because it's also shown in real life outside of the game more because he can go in and out of the game normally. It's that the whole like you die in game. That's
okay.
Not a part
so
of
there's like there's a degree of like Death Note-esque drama there, which is good.
There is an episode where you're like I don't want to watch this. It's really fucking good.
Okay, all right, I'll give it a shot.
But so I do want to say, just because I brought it up, the whole reason I brought up Soul Eater, saying it's one of my favorite shows mangas, is because how much have I talked about Fire Force, Mark?
Quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Fuck it. Is that the firefighting thing?
Correct. Okay, here's the thing though. It sounds like a meme, right?
Yeah,
it does, doesn't it? The second I heard about that show initially, I was like, wow, that is a fucking meme because they're firefighters and they use fire to fight fire. I get it.
Huh?
You're not clever. Oh,
What?
wait, what do you
They use fire to fight fire?
So the point of the show is that like there was like in the past there was like a huge like the great cataclysm. The world caught on fire, everything died, and the world kind of reset. Like it's still people, like we have buildings and cars, it's normal, but there was like a weird reset point, and the people born after that were born with pyrokinesis powers, basically.
Okay.
And then based on the generation that you have stronger flames. So the entire show is all about like the flame. So like God is portrayed as the great flame. I thought I watched this
sounds
show.
way better than its name. Its name sucks.
I started watching this show thinking this is gonna be a fucking joke, but it's made by the guy that did Soul Eater, and I was like, I have to watch it because Soul Eater is one of my favorite things ever. It might be, dude. It's like on par with Naruto.
Really?
I'm not even fucking kidding. It is one of the greatest animes I've ever seen. Here's why. It's not long. I'm currently reading the manga now.
How long is the manga still ongoing?
Yeah, correct. The manga's still going. The manga's got plenty of shit, so it's a shonen. You'll get all the stuff you want.
That was the problem I had with
first season is only 24 episodes, and hit so much.
How many seasons does it have for anime?
Just one. It's new. It came out last season.
Okay.
Last anime season, and then it ended.
So it may get picked up again for anime wise.
Oh, no, it already October. It comes out. Season 2 comes out
cool.
October. Yeah, no, it's insane. Like,
I'll give it a shot.
I cannot tell you how great that show is.
I do have a problem now where I have so many things that people have just been like, not even just anime, just like TV shows and whatnot. Like
video games, whatever.
Yeah. Dude, I think the only reason that I still play video games at this point is to play with Corey.
I was gonna say to feel like you have a social life.
Yeah, man. Like it's sad because like there's, I guess I don't know if Magic Arena counts, but I'll sit down and like he's like no it does not.
No, it doesn't.
But
you can't chat.
It's true.
And I think that's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
Yeah, but guess when you also can't chat when you're hermiting in your apartment normally.
That's why God gave us Discord.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
I just
Skype.
Yeah.
Skype too.
Skype too.
Yeah. I think I love video games. Like I'll sit down and play them when I can, but recently when I can has become very short. Just because I have too much other stuff going on. So same thing happens with like anime too for me. Like where I love good ones. The problem I have is I get burned on so many bad ones. Where I'll like, there's sometimes I'll sit on my computer and I'm just like, all right, let me find something new. Okay, this looks cool. Watch the first episode. I was like, this is actual garbage. And then like, I'll like, you know what? Maybe I give it a second episode, and then the middle of the second episode, I go to sleep, and then I wake up the next day, and I'm just like, all right, well, to hell with that. But I need to catalog all of the different recommendations that I've been given over the last couple of days.
Can I add one to the pile?
Sure, go for it.
All right, I bring this up because especially knowing that one of your big gateways was Death Note.
Sure.
There's a series that I always recommend to people who are into Death Note, not because it's like really similar to Death Note, but that it's similar to Death Note in the way that there's nothing else like it.
Okay.
That it's very, very unique. It's a 13-episode show called Erased. Came out 3 or 4 years ago. I forget, Gabe, have you seen it or
Uh,
not?
So I haven't seen it on my own, but I have walked in and out of the living room while my roommates and ex at the time watched it constantly. So I've seen a lot of Erased, and I've also seen all the
All the
very
twists?
gruesome,
Yeah.
very fucked up parts of Erased.
Yeah.
So I totally understand what you're talking about.
So let me hit you with this, right?
Okay.
So Erased is basically a sort of murder mystery with a supernatural twist. The main character has a power. He can't control it. And what happens is his consciousness will get thrown back in time by random amounts of time, usually right after he witnesses some sort of tragedy. So like in the opening sequence, there's like a car that runs off the road. He gets thrown back in time like 30 seconds and is able to like prevent it from
That's pretty cool.
from running over someone.
This is my brother, by the way. I'm sure the microphone's ready to open the door.
So shenanigans happen, and basically somebody gets, I won't spoil too much, someone gets murdered by a serial killer, and his consciousness in response to this gets thrown back into like his 10-year-old self. So he has to figure out like what's going on here that's going to affect what happens in the future.
Holy crap.
And like, because it's just his consciousness and he can't control it, like, yeah, he knows. I think like he's like in his late 20s at the time the series starts. So it's like he has this knowledge of the next 18 years, but all the abilities of a 10-year-old and no idea how any of it connects together with catching this murderer.
Huh.
And it's 13 episodes.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. How do you? That sounds like the plot of a season. Like when you go that far back, but that's so. I guess I won't ask that because I'll spoil stuff, but I'll add that to my list.
It's 13 episodes. You do it on your
highly
own.
recommend. I know there's also like a live action adaptation. I haven't watched that.
Erased?
Yeah, don't know if that carries the
because
same
the
quality.
live action adaptation of Death Note was so good.
Yeah.
Was trash.
Which of the two, which are we referring to?
The Japanese one. The one that was the Netflix one.
We don't count that?
Doesn't exist,
okay,
actually.
That's fair. That's fair.
I blanked out of what?
Exactly.
That's good. That's
fair.
good. You should know about
You
it.
missed no
All right.
conversation.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. No, I really want to know. You can't leave me in the dark, guys. Come on.
Do you, though? It'll ruin everything for you.
Well, maybe I'll just say it sucks and we'll move on.
Death Note, Netflix.
Didn't watch it because I didn't want to watch it because I know it sucks.
Yeah, okay.
I
there it
watched
is.
like 10 minutes of it. Yeah, fuck that.
I watched a video that was just trashing it on YouTube, and I was like, this is good enough for me. This is bad. And then I went on about my way. But I think we have probably run the course of the time. Well over the time that I've been trying to tell myself that.
Let me before we wrap up.
What's up?
I gotta come back to it. Why do you hate Undertale?
Oh,
This has been sitting with me
Okay.
for an hour and a
Why,
half,
Mark?
probably.
So the beauty of this is the fact that on my first foray into YouTube, okay, I don't know what that was.
It's my phone. I don't need
Okay,
it.
my first time around on YouTube, that was like the huge. It was like kind of a meme on the channel of just like, yeah, Joe hates Undertale, ha ha ha. Like I think it's back when I'd make like shorter videos and was like more gaming news oriented. We had like a 24-hour stream where
That's ambitious as hell.
we did it. I fell asleep behind that couch. But there were 4 of us, so like we had shifts. But there was a thing where like if we do this thing, Joe has to play Undertale for my block of the thing. They didn't do it, and I didn't get to play it, but I did play it at some point. My problem with Undertale is not necessarily with the game. It's probably has more to do with the time that it was released in. So
All right,
So-
hit me with this.
so
Let me hear
my
this
thing is-
hottest of takes.
my thing is, this makes me sound really bad too, but it's okay. You remember Crysis, right?
Yeah,
The
super
shooter.
high end PC shooter
Yep.
game.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, the benchmark on how people measure their
Correct.
PCs is how well they could run Crysis.
Yep.
Until The Witcher 3 came out.
Until The Witcher
Yeah.
3 came out and ruined everybody's video cards. But so when that game came out, it was a moment where I thought, oh, games that have a really interesting plot can also look good. They don't have to be shit. So to me, I began to put more value in aesthetically how a game looks. Not even necessarily like it doesn't need to be on CryEngine 15. It doesn't need to be like on Unreal 4 or anything like that. But like there was a game that was announced called Last Night. I don't know if you guys remember. It has not come out yet because the guy who, the head developer of it had some involvement with the whole Gamergate thing, and ever since that came out, like that game has just been thrown off the shelf. So I don't know when it's actually going to come out. Game looks great. It's a very 2D, 2.5D like S game. Looks great. So even stuff like that I like. Ori and Blind Forest looks gorgeous. Like that stuff I appreciate. What pissed me off about Undertale was the fact that in 2017, I think that's when that game came out. 2017, 2016, something like that.
In that range.
Somewhere in there.
Probably closer to 16 than 17.
That story could have been told better, and I think it would have been better served if it was done in a better medium, a better looking, a better aesthetically pleasing medium. It drove me nuts because every game that came out around that time was that. Everyone was like cashing on like, hey, you remember the 16-bit days, guys? You remember the 8-bit stuff? What if I just made an 8-bit game and threw it up on Steam? You'll give me money for that, right? And people said, uh-huh. And then they gave the money. And it pissed me off that Undertale was so big. And I was like, this game looks like shit, and it doesn't have to. Like, there are resources now that can make this game be a better experience by putting in more time. Since then,
hot takes. All right.
Since then,
that's interesting. Yeah,
I've learned a couple of things since the initial moment of my hatred for that game. One of the fact is that it was made by one person, so I kind of give them a little bit of like, okay, you did this by yourself. I understand. However, there was a software back in the day when I was still in middle school called the Game Factory. Download that bad boy. I could make a game. You remember that shit?
They still
have
public
it.
school.
Yep.
I did that in. I don't remember what class I was in, like sophomore year. I used that.
It's great for programming. Like it's a really good way to teach people like coding and stuff like that. Like the very very basics of coding. But I could make a game in Game Factory now that looks better than Undertale, and that I could remake Undertale in Game Factory. It would take me like years, obviously, but I could remake it in that, and it would be way more aesthetically pleasing than that. Like, and I understand that this is a very small thing to hate such a big game about, but I remember literally logging on to Steam, and every day it was just Undertale-esque games. Like, even out of that era, like you got like Stardew Valley, you got Jotun. I don't know if you guys ever played that game. I guess Hyper Light Drifters.
Jotun?
Jotun, you're right.
Excuse me?
You're right. I'm a big dumb American. But no, like I hated that became the trend, and I feel like that game solidified that trend, and it made everyone else say, "Oh, it's okay to just make something garbage and throw it up on."
Ooh,
I'm not calling Undertale
like,
garbage.
Oh boy,
but you are.
Oh boy,
but
howdy.
But it's like it's okay to like make this very low end. It's like I don't need to learn Unreal. I can just learn like Flash, and I can throw up a game on Steam, and people will buy it. And people bought it because everyone was so doped up on this nostalgia train. And I was like, this game is the epitome of that. I hate it. Like I don't know if I've explained myself well enough here, but that's why that game to me has such a like negative like point in my brain.
You have explained it very well.
Yeah.
I definitely can
Disagree.
follow that logic train. Hard disagree on just about everything
That's
that
fair.
you've said,
That's
but
fair.
I can at least like that's a coherent argument.
Yeah, it's
I
just-
disagree completely
Yeah.
with that coherent argument, but I can follow that
Yeah.
from start to finish. There's a logic there.
Yeah.
Hard disagree though.
I just hate
Hard
I
disagree.
hate the era that it solidified or ushered in. Not necessarily the game. I think the game itself and the story is pretty cool. But I think that its existence caused Steam to be a dumpster fire for a long time.
So it's interesting you say how like that game comes out and then people go, "Oh, I can do that too," and then that
Oh,
breeds a generation.
that happens with
really
battle
shitty.
royales. Look it
That
up.
happens. That literally happens with every single popular game that ever comes out.
Sure.
VRs are like
they're terrible.
The thing now.
I say this being a avid Apex Legends player. That's
literally the best one though.
It is. Yeah. I've tried this new Call of Duty thing. It's all right. I don't know if I like it.
I watched it. I watched my roommate play it. I didn't play it, but it seems all right.
So the reason why I like Apex is because it's fast, and that game does not feel fast, and I hate that. I do not want to loot for 10 minutes to get into a fight for half a second and then get shot from behind.
What bothers me the most for that exact same reasoning is the fact that it's Call of Duty, which is like one of the most fast-paced. Like not the most by far, but one of, because it's the most popular, fast-paced first-person shooters.
At least in terms of realistic shooters,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like CS:GO is probably one of the fastest. I feel like in the sense of starting to shoot to ending the match. Does that make sense? Because you're sneaking around. I understand that nothing's happening for a while,
right?
But the second you start shooting,
I'd say some of the older games might either, like Unreal Tournament, like that kind of stuff. That stuff is just constant speed. Like
I love that game.
So good.
But
taking me back.
It's strange that they especially in the whole VR cycle now, they all tend to be fast paced. Call of Duty of all people. Who I've played Modern Warfare. It's actually quite fun. I'm very surprised at how fun it is for a Call of Duty game. Very fast paced. Yeah. Very fast paced. They dumbed it down too much because now you can't play it the same way.
The first game I played, I spent most of the match in a helicopter, flying around on the top of the map where no one else could shoot me, and the circle would just get smaller and smaller. And then eventually I was just like, you know what? What would happen if I just crashed the helicopter on the last team? Oh, they died. I win. That was the first game I played. I was just like, this is the dumbest thing. I was like, this game sucks. Like, why would you? I was like, because it was so small that like they couldn't, and I had like a decent gas mask, so I could kind of fly out of the zone a little bit. But the moment that it was down to the final thing, and I was like, hey, I see you right there. Boom. And I was like, and it's like, you win. I was like, this is the dumbest thing. I jumped out and like got my parachute, but I aimed the helicopter so that it would just drop. And I was like, all right, cool. That's where I wanted to go. And I win. I was like, this game, don't do that. Program that out of the game. Take that out. Like, that is stupid. I guess that's always my crux with those games and vehicles. I've never been like, yay, they added vehicles into a BR. I'm like, I hate them. They're always abusable. Every single time they're implemented into a game, they're always abusable. But that's me whining about video games.
Well, video games suck, so.
Then thank you for indulging me.
Yeah.
I had to know.
That's fair.
It was going to torture me. I had to know.
I'm taking it that you are a big fan of Undertale.
I'm a big fan of Undertale. 80% of that is due to the narrative.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of games that the story I love. Few of them have made me rethink about the medium as a whole in the way that Undertale did.
That's fair.
That said, still hard disagree with just a lot of the stuff that you said.
That is the beauty of conversation. You don't necessarily always agree, but
like, granted, could Undertale have been told? Like, could that same story have been told in a different art style? Like, did it require that art style? No.
Yeah.
That art style was not required to tell that story. But knowing the specific influences that led into that game,
like, I get the mother, like, Earthbound stuff. Like, I understand that. That's not lost on me.
And I think it's also, I don't want to mischaracterize what you said, so I'm trying to choose my words carefully here.
Even if you do mischaracterize it, it's fine. I'm not going to be upset.
I think you are selling short the amount of effort and detail that still has to be put into pixel art. I think.
Sure.
I mean,
I can see how. Yeah. So a game that I play on my Switch right now that is the most pixel art game I've played in a while. Wizard of Legend. I don't know if you played that game. It's a roguelite game where you're literally going through a dungeon, playing as this little wizard, and you get these upgrades as you go through it. It's a blast. I love it. It's not about the art. It's more about had Undertale come out right now, I probably wouldn't be as upset about it. It was the time that it came out in and what I believe it caused.
I don't.
That's that's where my hang up is, I guess.
I disagree with the cause, but I can understand how you would get to that because it was the biggest game of that type of that era. You got to remember the same era was Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight was
Still
big
huge.
in its own
Yes.
right. Absolutely got eclipsed by Undertale. 10,000%.
My question would be, I guess the other side of that is, when developers begin to do the nostalgia thing, my fear is that we begin to slow down on what games will end up being. So what I mean by that is, like, say for instance, if today, after Undertale came out, and to a degree I think this happened, and that's part of the reason why I'm a little upset with it, is that game came out. And then because that game came out and was so successful, other people began to copy it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the other people that began to copy it also stayed with that nostalgic style. What would have happened if that game was instead... All right, cool. That's Undertale. The dev has heard.
Thanks,
Let me
Flowey.
shut this down. What would have happened if instead it was... like something along the lines of, like, say, Mirror's Edge. You guys play that?
I'm familiar with
Okay,
it.
so like, I'm disappointed in that game because I think the first one was so good because it was so new. There was nothing like that. Nothing like that whatsoever. My problem with Undertale is there are things like that. And I feel like when people get stuck in this pattern of, like, oh, remember the whole South Park member berries thing?
Mm-hmm.
You don't progress the genre forward. You instead, like, because Stardew Valley is one of those things that I think came about because of the success of that game. And while Stardew Valley is a good game, I think people enjoy it. It's not something it's out of my ballpark of stuff that I like playing. But I would have much rather that it been something brand new that I have never experienced before than a game that's based around, well, not based around, but, like, that definitely uses nostalgia as a selling point. I don't like nostalgia as a selling point. I love the old games that I played. I appreciate them, but I want to move on past them. I want the next thing to come out to be bigger and better than that.
Let me hit you with the counterpoint.
Yep.
Let me hit you with this, all right? Mirror's Edge.
Sure.
Beautiful, gorgeous game, modern consoles. I don't think anyone would argue that when it came out, it was the best looking game of the time.
I think
it was good looking. It was
good,
on par
yeah.
with the other AAA titles of
Right.
the time, sure. But it wasn't the fact that it was gorgeous that set it apart.
Right, and I'm
what
not
set
saying
it
that.
apart. No, I get that.
Yeah,
I
okay,
get that.
okay,
Let me
okay. There we go.
take you on this train ride.
I'm getting on the train. I'm sitting
What
down.
set it apart was the gameplay innovation.
Right.
Absolutely, like you're right. First person, free running, something like that, never been done before. Was it executed perfectly? I haven't played it. Couldn't say. Not the point.
Yes.
The point is,
Yes. One was. Two is...
the point is it looked pretty, but the innovation that drove it forward was the gameplay.
Right.
What you're sort of, I think, conflating is that sort of innovation with graphical styling. I would argue that as a whole, because the industry as a whole, at least the upper end of the industry, which I think you would have to argue is the most representative of the industry, that's where most of the industry's dollars get spent.
Sure.
The upper end of that has been obsessed with graphical improvements to a poisonous degree. Let me ask you this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Horizon Zero Dawn, did you play that game?
Yes. Yeah.
Great game.
Gorgeous.
Absolutely wonderful game.
Yeah.
Fun, did a lot with, like, didn't do a lot of new stuff,
No.
but took the concepts that it was using, refined them well.
It was the Ubisoft formula.
Added enough new stuff to make it a lot of fun, make it really good. Would that have been a worse game had it come out PS3 era graphics? Would that objectively have made, and we're not talking like just pure graphically. Would that game have been worse if it was only done with PS3 era graphics?
I don't know if the game would be worse, but its appeal would be smaller. That's what I'm saying. So, like,
I don't buy that.
So
because
if you think I'm not saying you think, but, like, my thing is, do you think that if the games were not as visually appealing, but was still a $60 AAA Sony push title, but it had the exact same game mechanics, that the same amount of people would buy it.
I'm saying yes, but I think I'm sort of now conflating the point that I'm trying to make. Once we hit the PS3 era, the difference graphically from generation to generation has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. PS2 to PS3, huge shift. PS1 to PS2, huge shift. Super Nintendo to the N64 PS1 area.
These big leaps.
Huge leaps. We've gotten to the point where differences are incrementally smaller. And I think when you start looking at the bigger picture like that, the only real reason companies have to innovate new hardware is for graphical prowess. And that isn't making the games themselves more fun to play. It's making them prettier to look at, sure, which does, granted, lend to an overall experience, but the difference is so small at this point that it is becoming actively anti-consumer. Do you really think graphics have shifted enough where we need a PS5, where we need a new Xbox?
I think I may be
not in the slightest.
No, I think.
But what you're saying is that visuals help drive innovation, and I'm saying we're so stuck on the visuals. If you look at AAA titles in the last 5 years, there's been so little innovation in the gameplay wise because all of it has been focused on prettier. I
think I have made the mistake of not fleshing out. Visuals is a part of what I'm talking about. Visuals, they're not the sole thing, because Baba Is You guys know that game?
Yes.
Phenomenal game, because nothing like that existed. I don't care. The graphics are not something that like I need it to be this. It's more important to me that it does something different. That is the problem, and I don't feel like Undertale pushed that. I think it was something that not only did it not do something different, it had a unique story, but the overall feel of the game was nostalgic, not revolutionary. That's what I want. I want more revolutionary games.
But that's why Undertale is revolutionary. It took everything that already existed, all of these existing pieces of these different formulas. It took this nostalgic veneer. It took your expectations about what a game in that genre should be, what the goals should be, what the objective is, how it is you advance through that game. And it used all of that to completely subvert what the expectation is to tell a revolutionary story and to completely help people rethink the way that they think about these types of games. I would argue 10,000% it is revolutionary where to have an RPG where historically it's kill, grind, to where to achieve the best possible outcome, you have to go through it completely playing against the way you would play any other game of that genre. How is that not revolutionary?
So have you seen a game called God, it is losing me now. It is it's very similar to that. It's this is why I have the computer here.
With no mouse pad.
Yeah, with no mouse
pad. And a
delay. God, what is it called?
Oh, I love seeing you get into something more. I've been so quiet because I'm so enveloped in this conversation now. After he's like, okay, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah,
now we're gonna talk.
This is fine. This is fine. We may end up chopping this episode up.
That's fine. That's fine.
This is pissing me off that I can't remember what this game was called. It basically played with the expectations of a Call of Duty game. If you looked at the front of the cover of the game,
was it Spec Ops?
Spec Ops
the Line.
How the fuck did you get that?
Because here's the thing.
It's a popular, like...
I have never played the game, but while I don't follow a lot of games journalism and game reviews, one of the things that I still follow is actually Zero Punctuation. And when that game was released, it was a really big deal to him how it did just that thing.
This is the front cover of the game. It looks like a Call of Duty-esque, like, I'm a shooter guy doing a soldier thing. And the game couldn't have been it. There was definitely shooter elements, obviously, but it took that and flipped it on its head, much like Undertale did. And so my thing is this. I think that that's important, and I give Undertale its praise where it's due. Like, that is a cool thing. I'm not saying that's bad. I think that is a good thing. What I am saying is I want more companies to make this risk. I want them to use the thing that's not in the past. Because, like, the time that this thing came out, I think this literally came out in the middle of, like Call of Duty.
I mean,
Battlefield.
Just hit all, and we'll get a release date.
It literally
right?
just have the date and everything there.
2012.
2012.
Yeah.
So I think literally Black Ops
1 had come out the previous year, 2 years prior.
So that year you were getting,
and you could argue Black Ops was the height of Call of Duty mania for sure.
So, like, you had this game that came out with all of that hype, and it didn't. I guess maybe they're similar, because in my head I'm thinking it didn't rely on the nostalgia of, like, older things past. But it did rely on the nostalgia of Call of Duty, or of the shooter genre.
Yeah.
So, like, they're very similar. I just feel I have more appreciation for this than I do something like Undertale, and that may just be because of the games that I grew up with. That's possible.
I mean, and I would argue that that's probable, because the golden age of shooters was much more recent than the golden age of RPGs.
Sure. Yeah.
Golden age of RPGs is absolutely the SNES and PS1 era.
Absolutely.
Golden age of shooters you don't get to until well after Halo 1.
Roughly
Yeah.
2011, 2012. Honestly.
Modern Warfare 2, in my opinion, like Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops, those were the ones
That's
that,
like 2008, 2010.
And the games that came around them, like Battlefield 3, like all of those shooters that happened at that moment were, and people still have them like high regards. I
would argue that what those two games are doing is nearly identical. And I think both of them are widely praised because of it, and both deserve that praise. And now, granted, a revolutionary game in terms of like storytelling is going to be very different from a revolutionary game in terms of gameplay. Sure. Because especially in this day and age, there are fewer and fewer narrative-driven games. A lot of the biggest games of our era right now are maybe not completely narrative-free, but relatively narrative light or narrative free multiplayer experiences. You look at all of the big esports right now. You look at your competitive shooters. You look at Apex, things like that. In terms of what's getting mass appeal, it's not story-driven games right now. So I can definitely see the point that a revolutionary storytelling risk, or something that makes you think about that in a different way, in terms of the medium as a whole, as it stands right now, isn't going to be as important as something revolutionary from a gameplay aspect, just because that's not where games are trending right now. Narratives are not the focus.
I also think that's why Undertale exploded as much as it actually did, because you could say the same for the time period when it came out. Yeah, because people were still playing like multiplayer games. It was different ones. League of Legends was still the most streamed game on Twitch at the time. Like no one cares much about it. But when it blew up so much and people went, "Oh my god, it's a story," and it still blew up, it's like, "Oh hey, fuck, cool. That's not normal."
That's honestly the reason why because I played Apex when it first came out, and I was like, "Yeah, BR, whatever." But they started releasing these animated shorts, and I would watch those, and I was like, how much money do I need to give you to put this on Netflix so I can I need to see more of this?
First conversation we had.
It's so the gameplay is, it's tight, it's got its thing. I enjoy it for the most part. There's some frustrating things, but I enjoy it for the most part. But what I think really sells me and brings me into that game is, now I know why the voices that Wraith hears in her head. Like I get where that's coming from. I know like everyone's motivation. Like there's something cool about that.
Mhm.
Like,
I think subtle storytelling has a specific like interest, I
Sure.
guess, because of that. Because you get a little bit of something. It's kind of like how we've been talking about anime forever. It's like when anime or a TV show gives you a hint of something. How episode 2 of One Piece, you get a little bit of information, and then hell of a long way down the line, you go, oh, okay. That's cool. It's like that kind of, obviously less span of time, but you have a small piece of information, which is also a gameplay mechanic, which makes it even more fun.
Overwatch does that very well.
Overwatch is a amazing example.
Overwatch was the first game, I think, to understand that people will connect to it more if there is context.
Have you seen the Overwatch 2 trailer?
Yeah. And that's the thing,
it's like
that
what you want.
I think
I have never seen a visual and auditory like medium be put together in such a way that like forces emotion out of you. Like that, and it sounds so stupid to talk about like a small trailer like that, but oh my god, I watched that trailer so many times, and I don't even play Overwatch that much now. Like I think I may not have it installed on my computer, but I probably will play Overwatch 2 based solely off of that trailer. Like it's so well done,
because context and storytelling and narrative are still important, even if they're not at the center focus of the games that people are playing today. The ones that tend to get the most attention, the ones that stick with people, the ones that stick around are the ones that remember, it's all well and good to shoot people, but shooters used to get by on that because they had the historical context of war. Once we got desensitized to just modern warfare, no context, people lost interest. Overwatch brought that back. I'm a huge fan of narrative.
This is fine.
Gasp, shock, spoiler, surprise. So like I feel very passionately about stories and narrative in games, especially. I think being able to experience a narrative in an interactive medium is so unlike any other medium in which you can experience a story. Slight detour. Anyone here play Heavy Rain?
Yes. Sorry. That took me way till I was like,
remember,
which one was that? That was that one. Yes.
Heavy Rain
was in Detroit. I don't know if you played Detroit.
Detroit.
So goddamn good.
Absolutely. But to the point, right? Heavy Rain was not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but nothing sticks with me more than that sequence where you literally have to hold and press buttons to cut off your own damn finger. It's chilling. It stays with you.
Oh, can I mention one that hits me the same exact way that does? Dead Space 2. Have you guys played the Dead Space franchise?
I never finished either of them. I played 1 and 2, never played 3 because 3 was very weird.
Okay, so I loved that franchise for a long time. I'm not going to talk about it forever because what time is it?
But it's
Dead Space 1 was an amazing game. I loved it. It's just a great horror game. Awesome. Dead Space 2 started leaning into action too much, and then Dead Space 3 is a straight up shoot 'em, and it's whatever. Like I played it to finish the series, that was it.
Yeah.
Dead Space 2 is it's still very horror-esque. There's so much shit that happens where you're just like your skin crawls. And there's one very specific scene where there's a machine. It's been so long, so I hope I remember correctly. There's a machine you have to turn on, like you have to turn on the machine. It's dead. However, it needs a blood DNA sample for. Damn it! It's something about it needs like a DNA sample. I don't remember exactly why you have to do this, but it needs it.
Oh, I've seen that.
You guys have probably seen
that.
This.
Yeah.
It's a scene where you have to lay down on a machine, and for this one little bit of the game, you no longer control your character. Instead, you control a needle. Your character is laying in a chair, and he's looking straight up, and you have a camera facing right at his eyes.
Yep.
And his eyes are constantly darting, and you can't control them anymore. And you have to get a needle perfectly into the pupil by holding R2 and just slowly moving it down. And if you miss slightly, you jam it into your character's skull, and it is a restart. And the first time I saw this, I hate eyes.
Yeah.
I've worn glasses for a long time. I hate things touching my eyes. It is a large fear, and I don't like it. The first time I played that game, when I got to this part, I went, okay. And it worked perfectly.
What?
I didn't kill myself. Got it one and done, and I went, never have to watch that. And then I watched it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, an hour later,
That's
and
where I
like,
saw it.
Holy
Yeah.
hell, that is terrifying. But it literally made my heart like beat. I was like, I don't want to do that, and that is not often in video games anymore. I find so.
Yeah. Those moments don't happen.
This has helped me realize why I stand in such defense of Undertale. So thank you for allowing me this diversion.
No, you're fine.
Because games are an interactive medium, because it is not just the character, but it is also you controlling the character, making these actions happen. The fact that Undertale took advantage of the fact that it's an interactive medium in a way to tell the story that would not have been possible in any other medium. You can't have Undertale as a TV show. You can't have it as a movie.
Right.
It doesn't work. It took full advantage of what it is in a way that most things don't. It did it really well. It did it effectively, and it did it utilizing tools that would put your expectations in such a place just by their very nature because of that nostalgia to then subvert them in a way that's just not possible any other way. The same way Spec Ops: The Line does.
These things are not lost on me. And there's a degree of respect I have for Undertale. I just
sometimes opinion just kicks in,
like
man. Sometimes it's just like,
no, don't that
like
like just to bring it back full circle, right? There's a difference between enjoying something and respecting something.
Sure. Yeah. The thing is that's funny is I have a feeling if I were to sit down and play Undertale now, I might have a different opinion of it. I don't think it's possible for me to get anyone into my mindset when that game was released. Because I was literally reviewing games like on a weekly basis. Every time something cool would come out, we'd get together. I don't think either of you know Neil, but we go to Neil's house. We sit down and we go to Neil's house. We'd sit down and we'd record videos, like 3 videos a night. Boom, boom, boom. And we would talk about different video games and different news and stuff. And I noticed there was a huge shift in like the games that were coming out. Because like there's so many AAA titles, right?
Yeah.
The number of those that were released in a time window are finite. Like there's not that many of them.
And most of them stack at the end of the year.
Right.
So you wind up having 3 months where you get 30 titles and
a lot of the time
9 months of
you
nothing.
pick one
and
you play it, and then you have to base the other games off other people's opinions.
The thing that I think happened with that game in particular was the eye of media and everyone in the gaming sphere was beginning to shift to look at indie games, because indie games were where I was like, that's where I'm going to find Mirror's Edge. That's where I'm going to find my Kingdom Under Fire game. I don't know if you guys Shadow of Colossus, Pray for the Gods. That's the reason why I love that game.
Haven't heard Kingdom Under Fire in
I'm
years.
so happy you know about that game. Like those games are so impactful to me. Like in growing up, I'm like, I've never played anything like Kingdom Under Fire, and I've never seen anyone try to make anything like Kingdom Under Fire. And at the time that Undertale came out, there was a hope, I guess, in me. I was like, indie developers going to do it. That's where I'm going to find what I'm looking for. And then when Undertale came out, to a degree, I feel like that hope was disappointed, because I was just like, don't go that direction. Like, I need you to come back this way. Like, I want to see something I've never seen before. And I guess when I sat down and played Undertale, the thing, like the subverting expectations thing, I guess I don't put as much value in that, because I feel like I've gotten that from other games. Like story plot twists, like, or even like big gameplay. Like there's the famous Metal Gear Solid 2, where you're like, oh hell yeah, man, we got your boy Snake. You gonna play this thing? What's that? Not Snake. Oh man, I'm playing as right. Like stuff like that. So I guess when I see that game, it's through the eyes of 2012 Joe, not current Joe. And I don't know, maybe I'll go back and play it again. But
what you're saying is totally fair, because Lord knows I'm not innocent of this in the slightest. There are definitely shows, anime, games, movies, whatever, that just because of either when they came out, my personal feelings about someone in them,
Yeah.
or some of the subject matter or something. Doesn't matter the actual quality of it. I'm just like, no, I can't, I won't, no.
If I may get an Undertale word in here, because I'm seeing two sides.
Okay.
And I'm understanding both sides entirely. I have basically I'm a flat line on Undertale. I've played it. It's fine. I enjoy the game. I was also in the fandom that moved into that fandom. I've seen it from just many different perspectives. And based on what you guys are saying, I think I see the line here. And the line being is that, in my opinion, personally, Undertale meets the requirements that you think it didn't, in the sense of innovation, and the key word I think is gameplay. Because sure, in terms of this 8-bit pixelated RPG where I'm just walking around,
Sure,
that's been done before. That's been done in plenty
Right.
of times. That's where it draws from Mother and shit like that.
Right.
Totally. Gameplay in the sense of literal combat, for example.
sure.
That was, in my opinion, total innovation, because not even if you're doing the no kill route, not
Yeah.
because in that route you're literally not doing
Yeah.
anything. You're just clicking a button. If you play that game, there's not really much gameplay. You're essentially reading a story in the same sense of, have you guys played The Last of Us?
Bad at it, and that's why I haven't gotten it.
Gameplay aside from that game, shooting aside, hiding aside, you're watching a long movie.
Sure.
To whereas Undertale is an 8-bit movie, if you do it that way. That's how I see it, at least. And when you're not doing it that way, when you are fighting and when you are doing the non-pacifist route, whatever the route's called, even that gameplay, I can't name another game that's done that. Where the way you fight is, I'm gonna move a little mouse and dodge shit in a box. That is interesting. Like
the merger of RPG and bullet hell, to my
Exactly,
knowledge, had never
exactly.
been done before.
I agree. I don't think it's ever been done before, but I can see totally where the game absolutely draws from, and you want to see something new. But I couldn't name another game that does actual gameplay, like combat, I guess.
I guess
game has.
this may make this a little bit clearer, and I think you saying that may have helped me verbalize this, or at least frame it. The Undertale series is a bad word, but the Undertale-esque games that came out after Undertale, like the clones, I guess you can say, like the games that were clearly drawing from the success of that game, right? What were those games? Like, they were,
I couldn't even tell you. Lord.
well, no, not names,
Yeah,
but like
good.
what I'm
Good,
saying is
'cause
like,
of-
I'm saying like what
Gun
what-
to my head, pull the trigger,
no,
man.
no, but what I'm getting at is like, what were they like? Like, you had a bunch of like old school 8-bit, like older games, right? Like that they had. It's not about the 8-bit, I guess.
I think it's like a pyramid. I think the way you're trying to put it is like,
no. What I'm getting at is like, which is better? What that game brought, or I keep saying brought, but like, whose clones are better for gaming? That game's clones, or the unfortunate fact that this game didn't have any clones? Like, no one saw this game and then said, "Oh, I that's so cool. I will attempt to make something like that." That didn't happen for Spec Ops.
okay, I see what you.
And that is what upsets me. I want that to happen for that, and not for the things that we got from Undertale. Because I think Undertale's a important game. I think it's great. What I think it brought about was bad. And because of that, that's why I have this black mark, I guess, for it. Whereas, especially when other games like this exist, or things like even Pray for the Gods, that game is clearly a clone, like of Shadow of Colossus, but it's done in a way that's new, and you get to experience those things in a way that I would hope would spawn other developers to make new innovative things. What happened with Undertale, in my opinion, was that did not happen. Instead, people said, "Oh, people are making money off of like the nostalgia feel of these old games," and part of that's on them. They missed the boat, right? Like they didn't realize that the reason why Undertale was so big was because not because of the way it looked or not because it was appealing to nostalgia so much, but because of the actual gameplay of the game, right? So part of that blame falls on them. But I wonder if we would have had the same story if that game was done differently. Like if that game was done in the same light as this, but had like the same message, I guess, would we have gotten clones of this that we had another one that clicked? Because I can't think of another game like Undertale that clicked. They were all trash. They were all really bad games. Like
I can't think of another
game. Can you throw me like an example? I'm trying real hard. So I'm trying real hard to get into 2012 Joe's brain.
This is why, and I guess I could look it up. I could not tell you a name of these games. What I can tell you is if you were to go on Steam, and I guess I could do that. If you were to go on Steam and look at the games that came out along the time of that game, it would be like
I'm trying
real
hard.
Pull up my Steam account, which might be a bad idea, but we're doing it because I want to
get ready to blur out a lot of stuff.
That's the problem. Like it's like, and even that, I guess you can use that where there was the year or the moment of visual novels on Steam, where I don't know if it was How to Have a Boyfriend or what game it was that like was big, but because that game was big, then we got a slew of just trash visual novels. And for a long time, Steam was just full of those.
I remember that era.
I hate that. And that's the thing that I'm trying to, I guess, explain about Undertale. It's not Undertale.
All right,
it's what Undertale, in my opinion, caused.
I get what you're saying. And my argument would be twofold.
Okay.
First, anytime to what Gabe sort of said this offhandedly earlier, and I didn't say much about it at the time, but now it's even more relevant, I think. And I would agree. Anytime something is big in the industry,
sure,
to that degree, there's always a whole bunch of imitators. And I would argue that it is actually very, very, very rare that you get something that is inspired from that and is good. Much more often, everything that comes out that tries to ape and imitate that is trash. Sure. That's true of AAA, whether it's imitating AAA indie regardless. And so while I get that argument, I don't necessarily think it's fair to put that on Undertale. And the second thing that I would say is very Steam specific. Steam, especially in this day and age, has basically become the Wild Effing West.
Sure.
There is one of the best arguments that you could make for the Epic Store versus Steam. And the fact that I have to say this sentence makes my skin crawl, because Lord knows I don't really want to support Epic.
Don't say it, Mark.
But one of the best arguments you could make for the Epic Store is that they're way tighter on their curation. With the stuff that gets put on the Epic Store, like, because it's a much smaller storefront and it doesn't have to bear the weight of 15, 20 years like Steam does, you don't have to wade through a wasteland of similar to things that you've played like you do in Steam. And especially now, granted, I don't think this was as relevant when Undertale came out, so not super relevant to that part, but just in general now that Steam has even more relaxed their guidelines about what is and is not allowable on there, you get so much, like so much of what's on Steam right now is garbage, and so much of what you'll get recommended is garbage. It's not good, and that's one of the pitfalls of having that sort of open marketplace. Now, granted, part of me has realized in the course of having this conversation, I've never been in games journalism, dear Lord.
Yeah.
So my experience, of course, is going to be different from yours. Sure. I didn't have the weight of all of that stuff going into it when I went into it. My expectation, to be fair, I also specifically waited like a year after release, because when it was super overhyped, I was like, I don't want to touch this right now.
Right.
Because this is like, too many people are talking about this. I don't want to go into this with expectations of other people on it. I want to experience it myself. I want to form my own opinion. So it probably came out in 2016? I didn't play it until at least a year later. Did not play it until at least a year later. And I think that was the right move. I can't imagine how I would feel about it if I had played
2015.
15, Lord. Yeah. I can't imagine how I would feel about it if I had played it at the height of the fandom machine behind it. My experience would probably be way different. So I think what I'm saying is, while my personal opinion is vastly different, I think I fully understand where you're coming from and have no further desire to fight about.
Yeah, it's. I don't
think you guys should shake hands.
Yeah,
now.
I'll shake it
by all means.
I don't see this in the frame of like a fight. I guess. I think.
Oh, I do.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I do, but that's because like there are very few things that I consider like important, just important, right? Mm-hmm. Not even just to me as a person, not for the medium, but just like I think this is something important. And Undertale, especially, again, I think waiting was the right call because I went into it with the mindset that I did. Undertale became something that was very important to me, I think. And so I definitely get defensive about stuff.
That's fine. Yeah. Like the things that it's a similar conversation I have. We have not said where we work, which is good.
Yep.
I didn't bring that up.
Smart.
Forgot to do that the last time. But it's a conversation I've had with Magic players about that game. I feel like different than any other card game community, they get attached. They are attached to that game. If you say anything bad about the game, they get defensive. And I've gone on record many times of talking about how I think that game, the only reason it's still popular is because it has been popular. Imagine no other new game in the history of any new games that have come out since Magic. No one has copied their resource system. No one, because it's bad. It doesn't make for a game where skill rises above luck. And granted, you're playing a card game, so there's
always going to be
there's a degree.
Card game,
but I think that game especially has it really bad because of the way that their resource system works.
Something that can literally not be changed.
Sure, and there's nothing that there's nothing you can do about it as a player. Like you could just not play.
I mean, you could play Manaless Dredge.
That's true. You could do that,
and that's how you get around.
And be history's greatest monster.
Continue. But I forgot where I was going with that now.
And I get what you're saying. I think it was going to land somewhere along the lines of, if Magic were designed today, it would be a very different game.
Sure.
But it's carrying a lot of weight. The people that play it a lot, that are, big in the scene.
Right.
They're carrying the weight of whatever it was that when they got into Magic. It's important to them.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like,
it's not that Magic is the best card game. It's that Magic came along at a time when there really wasn't much like it.
Yeah.
And even in the intervening years, there hasn't been much persistent that stayed after it. For people who that's their thing, that's their hobby, it's important. It is an important game, never mind the fact that from a mechanical standpoint, it could be better.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I think it could be better in terms of building it. I don't think it can be better now. I think it is where it is now.
I mean, there's a reason why it's almost become non-existent multiple times.
That's true.
In its past.
Yeah.
And they got lucky.
Yeah.
Because it probably should have died at some point.
Yeah, or at least force them to revamp it. Relaunch it or something. But
it was very close to dying. This is granted way back when, but Ante. Fucking 99.
Oh, yeah.
That was a last resort. That was a last resort of, oh, wow, this game's going to die. Cool, we'll make it gambling. And then people went, oh, yeah, we'll play it. And then they went, oh okay, we don't got to do that. It's fine. Hey, don't worry, everyone.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, do you want to get into an Ante format with me?
Oh my goodness, y'all.
Probably not.
Are you sure?
Y'all.
Though?
Yeah. So here's my thing. I have
Gonna wager your Blue Eyes White Dragon, the rarest card.
and rip it. I have people that want me to get into Commander. I have people that want me to get into get back into Standard, get into Pioneer. I have people that want me to get into like a special format for Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't have time. It's fun to theorize and like build all these decks and like come up with these ideas, but it always comes back to when am I going to play it? And the answer is I don't have the time to do it.
That is my entire life,
Like,
and you don't have to say
Yeah.
anything else.
I think
it's just like
that's especially true for people our age. Like
Yeah.
once you sort of hit this age and up,
Thank you for saying our age.
yeah.
I appreciate it.
like there so much you don't have the free time that you used
No.
to. That's why a lot of people who had tons and tons of hobbies as they were growing up, once they hit our age, have one or two that they pick and like, all right,
That's
this is the hobby. Just you only have so many hours in the day.
yeah. Yep.
Hard truth.
It's something that's cool to acknowledge though once you get there. I'm gonna cut it though.
Yeah.
It's 10:13. I know you guys have to be up pretty early. I have to
You
get up.
assume I sleep.
I hope you sleep.
No.
That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not healthy at all.
Yeah. Same thing. The doctor said the same thing.
I took a nap before I came here. I'm
Okay.
good.
Well, I don't have to get up nearly as early as you guys, but I do need to get up roughly. But this is great. I think what will ultimately happen.
I don't have to come back on. It's fine.
No, I want you back on. I want both of you back on, especially for the anime thing.
Well, at the very least, let me thank you so much for having me on. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it, man.
Can I say one thing?
What's
Because I
up?
have to say it.
What's up?
All right, hold on. Apex is a fun game, right?
It's okay.
It's good.
It's all right.
Who's the worst Apex player of all time?
Like person,
Human person.
the worst.
There's a specific person you're supposed to say.
Oh, I know who you want me to
I
say.
really want you to say it.
You want me to say a person's whose last name ends with or rhymes with Toyota, and his first name rhymes with I don't know.
Dory.
Dory.
Dory. Finding
Dory
Dory.
Toyota.
The worst Apex player.
worst.
This episode brought to you by Disney
is
and Toyota.
Dory Toyota. And I promised him that I'd tell him that he's a piece of shit. So, Dory Toyota, you're a piece of shit.
The same esque thing I want to do with the anime, like anime moments thing. I will be doing a movie one and a video game one and like all of the different types of media. And I want to.
I volunteer.
He's like I volunteer for all
Okay.
of those.
Volunteers tribute for all of it.
Corey for sure is going to be on the.
You have
the
to put me on
movie.
with Corey one
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Please.
Yeah. That might be good. You, Corey, and Michael, I think would be pretty dope. I don't know if you know.
He's
his roommate.
he does the podcast.
Yeah. That'd be pretty fun. But I definitely want you both back for the anime one for sure.
Love to.
The thing, we'll try not to. I'll try not to.
You said you wanted it to be like a half-hour video, right? You wanted to.
So-
We'll have to
shorter.
stay focused.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah. We'll have a button, like a no-no button, like.
the big hurdle with that is I will probably record for 30 or so minutes, but the video will most likely ultimately end up being like 12 minutes.
Hey,
that's
fine by
yeah.
me.
So that's good. But that is what I love doing. I love editing. Video editing is my shit. That's what I like doing.
Oh my god,
So,
I'll pay you money to teach me, dude.
it's not as hard as people think it is. It's very simple. It's when you get into the art side of it where you like I get to make this whatever way I want to. That I love about it. But
Audio editing was enough for me. I
No.
can't imagine going into the video
it's
side.
so much fun. But thank you again. I don't know if you want to shout your podcast out again.
Yeah,
That way
sure.
everybody knows. where to
If
check you out.
if you want to get into One Piece at a manageable rate and don't mind the fact that it's going to be a bit like, quite frankly, it's not a bad thing to have good TV to watch every
It's true.
week. I don't think that's really a minus.
Nope.
You got a nice backlog. You can check us out anywhere you can get your podcasts. We are pieced together.
Yep. I'll put it in the description and all that good stuff. Once again, thank you again, guys. And we'll call it there.
Will Joe have us back on his podcast? Will we talk about topics again?
No!
Will we stay on track? Find out next time on Just About Anything.
Where we talk about literally just about anything.